Hey, what is going on, guys? Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. It's Sunday Night Live. Tonight, we've got special guest Jordan with Haterade Cowboy Cinema. Jordan, what is happening? And we may have already lost you.
He's at the airport.
Jordan is at the airport. He just finished up with AXPONA, and he is making his way back. But his flight keeps getting delayed. And so we've tried a couple of different ways of connecting him with the phone. He's tried his laptop. He's tried Wi-Fi. He's tried his hotspot. So hopefully we'll get him on here. But we will see. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good. If he's like me, he probably was trying to unmute and hit end call. I do that. I do that far too often.
Well, I've done that, but I've ended the entire broadcast.
That is awesome, man. Well, hopefully he'll probably text me here in a second. We'll just keep going but man, hope you guys have had a great week. I know Ryan has been busy. I thought Jonathan had went to AXPONA, but he's like, nope, I didn't get a chance to go this year.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we can bring Jordan back here. All right, Jordan. He is back. And now you're muted. Your mic is muted.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off my camera just in case. See if that helps.
All right, sweet, man. Well, Jordan, welcome, man. You and I have had a chance to connect for probably the past several months, man. It's been super cool to see you and your channel growing, and you're just like all over the place. So I'm glad that you got a chance to go to AXPONA. And so we're going to start off tonight kind of talking about that. And then if you've got questions about home theater, feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat, and we'll get to those.
Sorry, guys. I don't know if you can hear me, but
feel free to go ahead and drop those. So we hear you. Can you hear us at all? And we're going to lose him. Yeah, I wish there was an option on here to just call in, but
before we start,
may not happen.
Jonathan has different chairs behind him.
Oh yeah, show us, bro.
Do. They're not
next chapter in the Jonathan chair saga.
They're not fully settled in, and I've got little near field now that I'm playing with to try.
I'm grabbing my headset.
But
look at those chunky boys. Whoa, what is going on with the one in the back in the middle? What, that thing's like airborne. Yeah, what is happening there?
It's on cinder blocks to try to get
but you have to like jump to get into that thing.
I do. It's to get a sense of how high I need it for the
go do it. Go do it. I want to see you do it.
I'll have trouble getting in. It needs a stepping stool. My daughter was saying, I can't even get on there unless I get on the other seats first. I lifted her in there to get in there. It's well, what are those cinder blocks? They're only 8 inches tall, so I think it's only 16 inches taller than normal.
Only.
I think that's about right, unfortunately, in my room for where we need to be, give or take an inch or two.
Right.
That thing is way up there.
I like it.
So I'm debating whether to stay with my 18-inch near field or go to these 12-inch near fields, and then use the 18s on the back row, because I can keep the rows a little bit tighter if I don't have the 18s. These 12-inch boxes are a lot smaller.
But are those near fields? The drivers aren't big enough to give you that real near field effect, though, are they?
Here, stand by. They'll give you a little effect, but not as much as the 18s for certain. 1 second.
Is he going to demo it for us? Oh, I thought he was getting in the chair. I was more excited. Man, you built that up. You walked away. I thought you were jumping in the chair, and then you went and got a subwoofer.
Yeah, these are little Infinity Kappa. They're nice subs. They're high excursion. High excursion little guys. I think they're actually 10s now that I look at them. But
okay, go put that next to one of the 18s up front. Can you turn your camera and put it up there?
Can I do that? This camera doesn't really turn.
That's good.
You're making him work tonight, dude.
Dude, yeah.
All right, we'll put it on the corner there.
Yeah, put it on the corner.
Oh, mercy. Like I said, that looks cute. Like I said, that looks cute, buddy.
It looks like a mother and its child.
He just gave birth.
I got subs all over the room because I took these out of my Burke line since my Burke line sold. These were the under chair ones.
Those were slim profile.
Yeah, I got to figure out if I can mount them under these new ones, and I don't think it's going to be possible because the recline mechanism is automatic or electric, and it has it right in the center, so it kind of blocks that out.
Yikes!
They're sweet, man. I love them.
Super comfortable, like melt in your seat comfortable.
Chris said those are tiny subs, man.
Jonathan
Dude, I'm
doesn't
happy
feel
for
the
you,
need to
man. So
compensate
yeah,
for
those are
anything.
like low profile on the top.
Yeah. So here, I'm gonna see if I can I get this over there to kind of show you I'm still connected. So am I in the way? Yeah. I'm gonna just put this down and show you.
All right, let's see.
Jonathan's not doing a video on his new seats. It was just me asking because I get excited about the
Those are
Jonathan
cool,
chair
though,
saga.
man.
I sat in these seats at NFM when
Mhm.
we were trying to talk Jonathan into making bad
Nice.
decisions and buy them, and they're really comfortable.
So those are very similar to what Valencia just introduced.
Yes.
But I bet he paid a whole lot less. Took him what, 6 months to get?
I don't think it
4
was
months?
that long.
Couple months.
I don't think it took that long. Maybe a decent amount, but 4 months maybe.
So Haterade Cowboy Jordan, he's going to join us in the chat. So unfortunately, his Wi-Fi is not going to cut it tonight at the airport.
Jonathan, how long did it take you to get those chairs?
I ordered them in mid-December, so quite a while. They just came.
I told
4
you,
months.
They just came this week.
4 months.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Custom
Yeah, I mean,
chairs.
But you saved
They were on the
quite
slow
a bit of
boat.
money, though, right?
More like I got the color I wanted. I think it was about $300 in Nebraska Furniture Mart. $300
Oh.
cheaper in Nebraska Furniture Mart.
But if you
Okay.
But-
think about ordering couches from Nebraska Furniture Mart, I mean,
Right.
like a year ago, they were quoting 8 months
Yeah.
to a year to get couches.
Yeah.
So 4 months ain't bad.
Yeah, and I didn't have to pay taxes on it, or the taxes were included in that price. So at Nebraska Furniture Mart, I would have had quite a bit of taxes. to
Mhm.
Yeah.
fork over.
So a couple questions on there. Somebody says, what were they per chair? from
Too
them?
much.
Okay.
So I ordered them custom. It's not the arrangement that they would come in normally, so that made the price go up a little bit. They weren't going to be too bad except for the shipping killed you, right? So I think it was
Yeah.
going to be $5,000 for all 6
Okay.
with the consoles, but then I had to
Okay.
pay $2,500 shipping, so
Sure.
$7,500, which is too
For
much.
6 of them. So it's about $1,000 a chair. That's still half of Valencia's. If
They're
you look at
really,
it that way.
really, really comfortable too. That's one of
Yeah.
the reasons I saw them quite a while ago, and I fell in love with them. I couldn't get them out of my head.
Nice,
So,
man. We're happy
yeah,
for
That's
you.
all he talked about.
And so what's the actual brand?
It's Manwal is the manufacturer, and Manwal is the biggest furniture manufacturer in the entire world. They just rebrand for everybody.
Yeah.
So like a lot of different companies, even high-end companies will use Manwal furniture with their own
Mhm.
label. In fact, these sell for 3 times what I bought them for from one
Right.
company with a different label and a different color.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's Manwal, and I ordered them actually on Alibaba, which is a little bit of a nervous situation because that's the first time I've done anything like that.
Yeah, but you
Yeah.
video chatted with the company and did a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
didn't
they
you?
were super cool. Manwal Corporate, I contacted corporate here, Manwal Corporate in America, which is like the American side, and I just said, are these legit people? Am I talking to Manwal Corporate in China?
Right.
And they said, yeah, you are. We can see the chat logs. It's legit. So that gave me some
Right.
comfort.
Good.
Then trying to navigate the shipping and all that stuff, I just said, you guys take care of all that, and I'll pay the fee because I don't want to try to figure out port shipping and taxes and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
You
It's
did
too
it
much.
right.
Yeah, that's a mess. It's always a gamble when you do that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm glad
I'm
they
real
finally
happy with
came, man, because we're like, all right, are they coming, buddy? He's like, yeah, I
Right.
think so.
Right.
Weren't quite sure, but we were pretty confident.
What's the status of the other chairs?
So the Brookline sold right away. Like I had people stacked up for some reason on those, and the Palazzo Roombas are still here. They're looking for a home yet.
And those are your nicer chairs, right?
Yeah,
Should put them in your
but
living
they're a
room.
little bit higher price because they're newer and electric. And I think I priced the Brooklines cheap enough that people were just like, hey,
Yeah,
I want these.
sure. Makes total sense,
Yeah.
man.
We should put lawnmower engines on them and race them around, man. M-Wave. Instead of us having to walk room to room, we can just go check on people driving the recliners.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
that's funny, man.
Yeah, we should do that.
So speaking of M-Wave, before we jump into the talking about AXPONA, Jordan in the chat, somebody asked, is Haterade Cowboy coming to M-Wave? I didn't get a chance to ask you backstage, so we're going to put you on the spot, man. We'd love to have you. Joe said he's looking forward to M-Wave. If you guys want to join us, we'd love to have you. It is July the 14th through the 16th. You can get all the details and tickets at MidwestAVExperience.com. So cool, man. All right. Well, let me just say hi to some folks real quick. So we got Michael's in the house, Joe, Finster, Tristan, Randall, JDE, Zombie, appreciate you being here. Chris is in the house. My Home Theater. Who else we got? SRW, Jed, Steve, bunch of folks in the chat, man. Paul, good to see you. Eric. Very cool, man. Well, let's have some fun. So this past weekend was AXPONA. So I've yet to be able to make it to AXPONA. So cool, man. So Haterade. Jordan says he thinks he's going to be able to make it. So that'd be awesome, man. I'll get on the phone with you shortly here and we'll talk about it, man.
Why don't we just let's chat after the stream if he's not in the on the plane yet.
Yeah, sure.
Depending on how long we run today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but AXPONA was this weekend. So that's a trade show that's been going on for several years now, quite a few years. And so we thought we were trying to get Jordan on here to be able to share his opinion and thoughts. And I think, Jonathan, you went 2 years ago?
I've been twice, 2017 and 2019.
Okay.
I really enjoyed my experience the times I went. Of course, it's a different show. I think they had some trouble with the COVID stuff that caused some fallout. Hopefully the show was good this year. I guess we'll find out from Ryan, but maybe not. Mixed reviews, huh?
Oh, mercy.
I told these guys that they may have to keep me in contained before I derail. So
I just told him
see where
nice,
this goes.
nice, so.
I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah.
So I'll try and keep it. Yeah. So
I did not get a chance to go to AXPONA this year. I've got 3 trade shows that I'll be at, 3 AV events I'll be at.
He was kidding because Ian was there.
I know, but he was like, "Where are you? Like, why weren't you there?" Is the thing. But
Cool
I've already
enough.
committed to 3, so I'll be at Cedia, I'll be at Audio Advice Live, and then also, of course, M-Wave. So, all right, Ryan. So, tell us your experience. Was this your first year at AXPONA?
This was my first time at AXPONA. So for anybody that doesn't know, AXPONA is more of a 2-channel experience. Then don't make me big.
All right. Your head's already huge.
Don't make me big. Good Lord. Your head's already huge. Get that out of here. Get that out of here.
All right, go ahead.
Michael's throwing shade and he wasn't even at AXPONA.
Oh, God.
So this is my first time at AXPONA. For those that don't know, AXPONA is more of a 2-channel experience than something like, I don't know, Cedia or M-Wave or anything like that. It's closer to like the Florida Audio Show.
Yep.
Right. Lots of high-end equipment. It's done at a convention center in Schaumburg, Chicago, outside of Chicago. And a lot of the listening rooms are in hotel rooms, which is common. You laughing at when I saw he was seething from just leaving? Oh yeah, I wasn't seething. Well, it kind of was. I wasn't seething. It just wasn't a good experience.
Yeah.
So where should I start? There's a lot of companies there. There's a lot of different speakers. There's a lot of different gear. I'm going to describe it as an audiophile show, right? It's what you would typically classify or think of when you think of audiophile, right? You go in, you sit down, you listen to all these rooms with all of these different pieces of gear. A lot of the rooms have well over $100,000 worth of gear in them, every hotel room.
Yeah.
Some of them, like there was one room, I don't even remember what the speakers were, and I'm not going to show any pictures, guys. I'll get this out of the way. The reason I'm not going to show any pictures is because I don't want anything I'm going to say to be associated or tagged or anything with any afflicted brands. So I'm not going to mention any brands. I'm just going to talk about.
Did you just say afflicted brand?
Attached to anything. Okay. I'm coming off a 9-hour car ride.
There you go.
So,
I told you we're going to have some fun tonight.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. I'm going to get more and more derailed as we go.
You're good. Go ahead.
But one of the rooms that was there, the speakers were $230,000. Okay. But that's not the ridiculous part. The equipment was probably like $500,000.
Wow.
Still not the ridiculous part. The cables.
Yeah.
The speaker cables.
Yeah.
By themselves.
Yeah.
$330,000.
Okay. So that beats my experience at Florida Audio Expo. The first year I went, I made a video on $70,000 cables, and I thought, what the heck?
$330,000.
How much were the risers?
Were they held up by little trestles?
No, they actually had people holding them up. I mean, they were that nice.
$330,000 just in cables for these speakers. And I'm not going to go down that path. Go that far.
That's pretty.
Do share your thoughts. Do share your thoughts.
About what? You guys can ask questions. That's probably the better way, because I don't want to rant.
Did the cables look cool?
I didn't see them.
Oh, okay.
The room was dark.
Oh, okay.
It was like one of the bigger
hi-fi
rooms.
Cables look really cool.
They're audio jewelry.
Big,
a lot of them
beefy,
look really okay. Don't do this motion when you write.
I did that. Come on, man. Oh my gosh.
The cables, I think, were longer than 10 feet, but it was insanity when you were talking about that, or even looking at the price sheet, that the cables by themselves were worth more than the speakers. I don't think the speakers were worth that. Just from the sound field that they showed. And that leads me to the next thing about the speakers in a lot of these locations. Like, guys, I've done events. I've been to trade shows. I've set things up. I've built rooms. I've done all of this. So I know what goes into this stuff. Most of the rooms that were there, and I understand that they're in hotel rooms and you got limited time and you've got X, Y, or Z, but a lot of these rooms were not good. Like virtually 90% of them were distorting on the high end, like ear fatigue nonstop. And you weren't even at high volumes. So
because they normally don't like crank them in these hotel rooms.
But a lot of times what ends up happening, and there was one experience that was pretty funny, and I felt bad for the guy. But for anybody that doesn't know, a lot of these rooms are going to play some type of like jazz, something mellow that's not overly loud. It's not strenuous. It's like you're easy listening, right? So it's easy. Well, you then turn and you ask the guy, are you taking requests? And the guys that I went with were Ian, Randy, and Bob. And Bob did this a lot. And he would ask the guy, are you taking requests? And then he would typically recommend or ask if he could put on some type of rock, or like heavy rock or hard rock. And the reason he was doing that was because it stresses the mid or upper ranges and pushes a lot more power or need for the speaker to be able to represent something. And as soon as he would do that on virtually every one of these speakers, they would distort. And then a lot of times we weren't being impolite. We'd wait a few minutes. We weren't like trying to be mean or anything. We'd get up and we'd leave. And one of the guys just goes, wrong song. And like, no, that was the right song, because that was showcasing exactly what the speakers were doing. And I can't say it was the rooms, because there were some speakers in some companies that did very well. And they sounded really good. Even in the bigger rooms, there were some speakers that did very, very well. And I enjoyed listening to them, but a lot of them, they did not. So it was really sad, I guess, because you go to these shows and you think, man, this is going to be awesome. There's going to be people trying to put forth their best effort to do all of this stuff. And I think a lot did, but it just didn't come together. And what may have happened was they were trying to put the speakers in a way that more people in a room could listen to them at one time, but it didn't do them or their gear or system any type of favors, because it created an environment that wasn't enjoyable. And it was enjoyable if I was listening to smooth jazz at a low volume, but as soon as I pushed them at all, or was looking for any type of imaging or really any type of anything aside from sound coming out of a rectangle, it just kind of fell apart.
Do you think some speakers are kind of better suited for certain styles of music, like orchestral, or like you said, jazz, or is it just better speaker versus maybe not so well?
I think a good speaker should be able to excel at everything. I think if a speaker has to only play certain things, there's some shortcomings, right? I think maybe one speaker may be better, like marginally at something because of like what it's designed to do, or low end output or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think a good speaker should be able to do everything. It should be able to reproduce audio. Like, think about an instrument. Like, if I told you that a piano or a violin could only do one thing and it could only play one type of music, that's not a violin then, right? A violin should be able to do everything a violin should be able to do. And a speaker, a home theater speaker, I won't say and classify them with pro speakers for ridiculous volumes, but a home theater speaker or a home speaker should be able to do everything that a home theater or home speaker should be able to do, in my opinion.
Sure.
If you start differentiating and saying, well, this speaker is good at jazz and it's not good at rock, or like it falls apart with rock, it distorts and stuff, well, then it's maybe not a good speaker.
Okay.
So there was just a lot of not greatness at AXPONA. There was some greatness.
So actually, before you get to that, because this ties into the not so greatness, Dan has a good thought here. He says, of the videos that I've seen, many of the rooms have exposed headboards. Because again, these are in hotel rooms, chest of drawers, maybe right next to the speakers. So he's suggesting that's a losing proposition because of the room acoustics. Could that be part of it? Or is it just bad
some of the
speaker
rooms
design?
that did very well had those same problems? So I don't really account that as being a, get out of jail free card. Was it an issue? Absolutely. Like, I'll name drop a few, the ones that I liked. And this was reaffirming. Okay. So Martin Logan was there with their new motion line.
Right.
And they had some, there was an issue that they ran into in there where the room if you sat in a certain row, the room, there was no bass coming out of them. But if you moved one row back, there was a ton of bass. The problem, though, not the problem, but the good thing, though, is there was no distortion. Like, my ears weren't fatigued from listening to them. If I went to virtually any other room, like, I can count on like one hand the number of rooms that I didn't have listening fatigue from, which is kind of disappointing, I guess. So I don't really say or think that that's the way or the reason that a lot of these rooms had trouble. Per Listen did a great job. They set up the speakers, and you could tell that they took the time to set things up. It wasn't an overly treated room. There was still stuff everywhere, but they sounded great. It wasn't distorting. Q Acoustics also did very well. There was Diptypka was they're a planar magnetic. They did decently well. Not my favorite speaker, but I think they did well. There was a speaker company called Atom. They had 3 different types of speakers. They had a bookshelf, a middle, and a tie end. They did really well in these same rooms. So these aren't in different rooms. These are the exact same rooms that everybody else was in. Polk actually had a set of speakers that were phenomenal for what they were. $1,300 a pair or something like that. And they did great. JBL had no room treatments in their room, in their home line of speakers. And that was great sound coming from there.
So these are a lot more affordable versus some of these really high-end hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep. And maybe it was how they set up. Maybe it was because, they were using boutique amps and they were overdriving the amps, or like amps that are only capable of like 7 watts, and they were pushing them too hard. They were distorting or something, but something in the signal chain. And I wasn't able to go through and troubleshoot this. Something in the signal chain was causing problems in a lot of these rooms.
Right.
Like 90 to 95% of the rooms. So I enjoyed it.
Jordan said the Polk R200s were there. So that was the
that's the ones that we liked. Those were great for the money. And there was very little treatment, if any, in that room. They did great. A lot of people don't necessarily think of Polk anymore as, my go-to for things, but it was good. Yeah. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Randy and Ian and Bob were with you. Did they have the same impression as you, or did you just have a headache that day?
I don't want to speak for them. So Ian's here. I think Randy's here. I don't know if Bob's here. So I'll let them answer in chat, and we'll kind of reread what
Ian,
they say.
let us know if Ryan just was off his meds that day or what.
I'm off my meds every day, so let's not think that this was any different.
Yeah. So, but what's interesting is the fact that you could take all 3 of us or Ian or anybody else Jordan, put them in the same room. They can listen to the same set of speakers, and the characteristics of that speaker, some of us are going to love it, some of us are going to hate it. But I would think that, I mean, if you're hearing, well, I mean, your hearing may be way more sensitive than somebody else's in regards to distortion.
Maybe.
Would that be true?
Well, it's quite possible.
Or were you hearing like, these things just sound like trash?
Well, that's kind of, I'm not going to say it like that. I'll just say that things could have been better. But as your point of people hearing different things, like there was a set of line arrays. I don't remember what they were. They were in a big room. They were a set of line arrays. I thought they were pretty decent. They weren't my favorite speaker, but they did well. They didn't distort. They did well. And Bob didn't really like the high end. He said they weren't distorting, but he didn't like how the high end sounded. So to your point of what you just said, we're going to like different things, and that's perfectly fine. Because as Jonathan said, I think a couple weeks ago or last week, like he expected two guys sitting right next to each other when you were doing the sulks and the JTRs, that you guys would have the same impression, but you didn't. And that's exactly what happens with everybody, and that's perfectly okay. But to me, and I'm going to let Ian and Randy speak to this, there was just a lot of shortcomings, I feel like. There was a lot of things that were overlooked, and I think it could have been a much better experience for everybody if it wasn't just trying to make things look good, if it was also trying to make things sound good. Because a lot of it seemed like people were trying to make great photo opportunities for things with lighting and all of this other stuff. It just didn't sound good. So too many speakers were like flat. There was no toe in angle. There was no anything. So your image was just butt in a lot of these rooms, or non-existent to begin with. So
I think it was interesting when I went to the Florida Audio Expo, I ran into Dan per listen, and he told me that he was actually surprised. He went to several rooms, and a lot of the rooms weren't taking any measurements at all. Like they would just set up their rooms and they would calibrate it just, by ear. Whereas, you mentioned earlier, like you felt that per listen had a really good sound. But one thing that Dan stresses is he took measurements of the room, and he's like, our room was terrible. Like our speakers measured horrendous in this room. And so he used his measurement software, calibrated microphone. And then they've even got some DSP built into the subs, and they're able to dial them in and help them to play nice together. And then once he was able to do that, now he, got the sound that he knew that his speakers were capable of performing. So maybe some of these other rooms aren't doing that.
It's possible, but I don't know that measurements would have caused, or what EQ would have saved the ear fatigue and stuff that I was encountering.
Okay, that's fair.
It was. There was just some, I don't want to go too far down this
that's okay.
Throwing shade and stuff, but there was some things that could have very easily been addressed.
Okay.
Was there any common denominator in the equipment in the rooms that you thought were a little bit harsh in the high frequencies? Like, was there an amplifier that was all the rage and everybody was using it, and you thought, or like something to tie to that potentially? Or
I think a lot of it was boutique stuff that I don't know. I have no idea who anybody. Doesn't mean it's bad. I don't know enough about it to comment on that. I'll say that the rooms that I liked weren't using anything special. I mean, they were using name brand stuff that was not overtly expensive. So I don't know enough about the systems and the signal chains to comment on, was there any type of connection or commonality between all these spaces. It was just something existed either in the speakers or the signal chain that was causing problems, and I don't really think it was the room.
Okay. Did you get a chance to hear, I don't know if they were there, Borenson?
Maybe.
I want to say they're a German company, possibly.
What do their speakers look like?
I mean, they're brown. They're gorgeous. I really.
So they're a brown rectangle.
Yes.
Really narrowed it down.
I'll show you. They've got a unique tweeter. Let me see if I can find their website.
One of the coolest things that I really did appreciate, it was an attempt, was some of the speaker, one speaker cable company actually was doing fast switching.
Interesting. That's
and
cool.
they didn't do it perfectly, in my opinion, because they were doing like an X. So they would have one set of cables do a lower speaker and a higher speaker, and the speakers were stacked. And then the other one, when they flipped it over, was doing the other way, the other part of the X. The problem I saw with that is the reflections in the room interaction would be slightly different, and you may perceive a difference in audio or change or shift in image that you may like, because it's more, the tweeter may be at range with your ears or a bunch of other variables. But I did very much appreciate the attempt at what they were doing, because it became more of a, we're not trying to hide anything, I think. Like I didn't go through their signal chain or anything, but it was refreshing. I'll say that.
Okay.
So I applaud them for doing that. I think it was great.
So these are the Bornsons. I heard these 2 years. They're phenomenal, man. I think they're about $14,000 a pair. They're bookshelf speakers, but you would swear they had a sub in the room. They're right out in the middle of the open too, so they're not getting a lot of boundary gain. And man, these things just sounded so full. The bottom end was really, really nice. But you would think that they had a subwoofer going, but they're fantastic. But definitely they're on the boutique side, so they may not have been there, but that has been one that consistently every year when I go into that demo room, I'm like, okay, I could see why somebody would want to spend $12,000 or 14 or however much they are if you've got that kind of money.
Johnny Speakers says they unveiled new ones at AXPONA that were $280,000.
Wow. Yeah. Nice. So they were there, but I'd like those. Check that out.
And $280,000 was not out of the realm for any of this stuff. I mean,
no,
there were amps and signal chains and things that were well over $100,000, and it wasn't uncommon to have a listening room with gear that was MSRP over $1 million. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
Now, MSRP, the value to that's going to be subjective, but it was not uncommon for what was there.
Right. So did you take any? I think Bob, didn't he take some photos while he was there?
He did. Yeah.
You have some that you can just like show us some pictures of.
Yeah, we can go through some stuff.
The folks that didn't have a chance to go to it, or they've never been to
if you have any questions about any of these rooms, I'll try and be nice.
A trade show like this. So just curious.
So we can go through some stuff.
Yeah.
That's my daughter.
Awesome.
So you got we referred to these as the salad bowls.
Okay.
They look like the wood salad bowls. I think they were pretty. They were really pretty. So don't get me wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And again, these are, I think a lot of times with some of these really high-end speakers, part of what you are paying for is the artistry, the design.
Go back a few, Ryan, if you would. Was that a giant coax driver at the top and something small at the bottom?
The thing at the bottom is actually a attenuation dial.
Okay.
To change, I think it's the high frequency.
Interesting.
You can boost or lower it. His words were to pull it forward or push it back.
Okay. So you can maybe change the staging of it.
But it was gain attenuation is all it was. It was increasing and decreasing the gain.
Okay.
So these are planar magnetics.
I've seen those before.
These are the Focal Maestro Utopias and the Utopia in walls.
Focal.
Okay, Focal. I'm focaled out. I don't have the focal. I don't have the long AL.
So it looks like they had some in walls back there too.
Yeah, the Utopias.
Okay.
With the base modules at the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah, these were pulling some power because, and I don't know how they had them hooked up, but every time the bass would hit, the lights in the trellises would dim.
They would start dim. Yeah.
These were these are the line arrays I was talking about.
Is that Parts Express? Is that the Parts Express one or not?
Where?
It says MM Lab, so maybe not.
No.
Parts Express had one that looked kind of like that actually.
We did see the Parts Express
do-it-yourself kit.
They've got new subs coming.
Nice.
This is the big boy. Sonus Fabers.
Oh my goodness! I just drew a blank on the model of those. I think that's their highest end, right?
It is.
What's in the middle there? Is that a power conditioner?
That is an amp.
Yeah, mono. Well, no, I guess that's a stereo amp.
And then I don't know what the cables.
Canister vacuum cleaners, right there.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, they're like $120,000. Those right there. Those are the
Which ones? Which back a few pages?
AIDS. AIDS.
The Sonus Fabers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're about $120,000.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah. So that's their highest end.
That's one of the
Gorgeous speakers.
This is Giordano's, or however you say that.
Did Paradigm show up?
I think they were there, but I did not see them.
Okay.
These were this was the do-it-yourself room, DIY room with DIY sound group. Okay. These I liked these. I think they needed a little bit of EQ. The low end was a little bit overwhelming, but they'd be a great speaker, EQ'd. And they were beautifully made. I mean, they were gorgeous.
Is that Erich? Was he there? Was he running the do-it-yourself sound group room?
Yeah.
That's cool. You guys got to meet him.
Yeah. I don't remember what these were.
And so
my memory with all of this is terrible.
For those that have never been to a show like this, so they literally take a hotel room, usually try to strip, the bed out. Sometimes the dressers are taken out, sometimes they're left in. So you can see it's not a massive room, definitely low ceilings, pretty narrow room, usually a long room.
They took the bed out. The headboard was screwed to the wall and the desk was screwed to the wall, but they took the dresser and stuff out.
Sure. Most of the time there's not any acoustic treatment that's been added. They just have the curtains back there from the window. They'll put their, signage behind there sometimes. Yeah, because there's a lot of people that haven't been to a, an audio show like this.
This was Stax coaxials?
This was the speaker or the speaker cable comparison, speaker wire comparison.
Okay.
So it's two stacks of speakers. You got a top and a bottom, and they switch between them for two different speaker wires.
Okay.
With a fast switcher, so they could switch mid song.
What was your thought?
Where they got that idea?
What was your thought of that? Did you hear any difference or much difference or?
Me personally?
No, I'm asking what everybody else thought. Yes, you personally.
Well, I don't want to. I'm trying to stay neutral here.
But you have an opinion though.
I couldn't hear the difference, and I think it was a little bit. The test was a little. It wasn't objective.
Okay.
They tried to be, but because the speakers weren't the same speakers and they were on different planes, I think they added too many variables, both with the speaker's positioning and the room.
Yeah, because you're talking about two speakers up top, and then they would switch maybe to the two speakers below that.
They did it this way. So one cable was on this speaker and this one, and the other one was on this one and this one.
Okay, so
that's
diagonal.
How they did it. Yeah.
Okay.
You know that Roger Russell Wild table link that we discussed a few podcasts back? That would explain what they've got going on here. They probably have either a very low impedance speaker where they have extra wire coiled in those towers. They have a page on that on how those kind of speaker wire comparisons are kind of fudged. It's pretty interesting to read. It'd be nice, Ryan. And I don't know this company at all. I shouldn't blame them. But the science is pretty clear on that stuff. It'd be interesting to walk behind there and see what's going on.
We're going to do it at M-Wave, baby. Yes, I am going to do it.
All right, guys. All right, you need to hire some help, man.
I'm going to do it.
We've got to have more help.
So we're going to use the Lazy Susan, and I'm going to do like 3 identical bookshelves. And I'm going to put the Lazy Susan on top of a table or something. And we can just flip between all of the bookshelf speakers and the bookshelves, since they're identical in the exact same position. Their exact only variable is the different cables. You can find out for yourself. Can you tell the difference?
Let's have the fun.
Yep.
Just got to make sure we get that thing that doesn't twist up the cables when you.
No, I'm only going to do it on the front, so it'll only be 1, 2, 3. So then I can just switch between them.
Like swing it left.
I won't do a full rotation. So I'm trying to simplify it.
Nice.
Some of the speakers were absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, sure.
But look at what's down there.
Is that the Beast?
That's a
It's not the Beast. It's the 12.
Oh,
it wasn't on.
So the 12,000? No,
12-inch
SW.
Yeah, they didn't have it on.
Reference Premiere. Interesting.
It's like they brought it to tease us.
Yeah.
These were interesting because they had
I've seen those
speakers all around the horn at the top.
Yeah.
And they fired like out.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? The speakers around the horn?
There's speakers that are behind this lip that fire and radiate out from the back of the horn, like directly out, not towards you, out.
Ryan, I'm gonna steal your screen just
Trying
for
to make ambience.
I don't know.
I'll show you real quick. So it's interesting. You can see the right around here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're able to see that. Let's see. There we go. See how there's mid-range drivers literally all around them?
Yes.
Definitely an interesting concept for sure.
Yep.
Let's try to see if there was another. Okay. Back to you, Ryan. But yeah, that's a company called Endow Audio. Mark Levinson.
Rebels.
It's interesting. Fidelity Imports, man, they are connected with so many brands.
Yep. They're coming.
They had like 2 floors at the Florida Audio Expo.
Yeah, they did. They had 6 rooms.
That's crazy. Dr. Vinyl. Yeah, you'll see a lot of vinyl at these shows. Again, because it's 2-channel.
These were interesting. Bob sat with these. I didn't hear them, but they're open baffle.
Okay. So there's no cabinet.
No.
Man, you would think that the bass would really suffer on that.
It does. They need EQ.
That's interesting. Yeah. Huh. I think it's cool to see how different designers and, choose to, some will use just all different types. Monitor audio.
These are the new DevTechs.
What was the previous one? Okay. Definitive Technology.
What in the world is in the middle? Are those those are the speaker cable lifters?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was a what do they call it? Hoverboard? Like a hoverboard. Get between rooms or something.
I gotta go throw up a little bit.
Come on, man. Amped.
Wait, what are those? Artisan Fidelity. That's not the name. Is that the company name?
I have no idea.
That might be I don't know, parent company.
Pretty looking speaker.
Yeah. There were a lot of really pretty speakers.
Of course. And like I said, I think that goes into a lot of the boutique pricing too, I don't think you're just paying for
these
parts.
Are those Adams that I was talking about. This bookshelf was really good. It could throw some sound. And
wait,
it wasn't
go back one page. What's their sources there? With the giant screen.
I want to use what the name?
It's their Atoll. This is all Atoll Electronics. So I don't think it's overtly expensive in the audiophile sense. I think it's a couple $1,000s per piece. The bookshelves were like $4,000, I think. So in audiophile land, not too bad. Here's the price list for that stuff that was in that room.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
In comparison to what was at the show, not really.
Jordan asked, did you hear any of the Magnum pans?
Yes. They were okay.
Did you like them? Okay.
This one was interesting because you had this big woofer and then you had this little wire running up to the ribbon tweeter.
Wonder what the crossover is on that. How'd that one sound?
Bob listened to this one.
It seems like you're missing the mid-range there, because that's Pro Woofer probably covers up to 500 hertz. What are you doing from the ribbon tweeter down to 500 hertz? Maybe they're even coupling it up higher, but at some point you're going to run into problems with the driver directivity.
Looks like they're running 2 amps on the bottom there.
Yep. These guys, I really actually liked these. They did really well, and it was a big room. It was not a small room. It was really hard for these two, and they brought
their own curtains.
All of the big rooms had pipe and drape, so I don't know where that came from. But all of
they
them
may
had
not
it.
have brought it.
But I liked these.
ATC, is that right?
Yep. Not cheap though.
Not familiar with that brand. I think that one of the benefits of going to something like this is you just get a chance to sit in front of a bunch of different speakers, a bunch of different brands, a bunch of different amplifiers. We all know that it's not the same as a dedicated room that they've really dialed in. They've usually got a couple days, sometimes less, to get this set up. Sometimes they're delayed in shipping. We were at Audio Advice Live last year, and literally the day before the show, we've got brands that were waiting on gear to get there, and so sometimes they have limited time to kind of tweak them and dial them in. But I think it's pretty cool to be able to just experience them for sure. Man, those are interesting. Some small little speakers.
Yeah, they were in the benchmark room, and it's 40 drivers, 28 drivers or something.
Right.
They can get down to 140 hertz, supposedly.
Did they have any kind of low frequencies?
There's 2 SVS subs.
Okay.
They weren't trying to hide anything.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just curious. Because I'm trying to figure out how that was going to reproduce any bass.
This is the new Trinov right here. That smaller processor that they're supposed to be making for studios or something. That's it right there in the Trinov mic.
Cool. So are these? Where's the drivers on these speakers? They're just
right here.
The tweeters,
the ribbons.
But is there mid-range or woofers on the back or something?
No idea. I'd assume, because if you look right here, there's a little cutout that comes back. I'd assume there's woofers. This room actually sounded decent.
Okay.
I think I'm picking up that the ones with plants you liked. The plants must have helped.
Just the color, the atmosphere,
the ambiance.
Yeah.
With the CD glued on the front of that one, go back a screen.
The triangle art.
What happened there?
What happened?
A CD.
It's like a kid got crazy with the glue.
I don't know.
Oh man.
Looks like a horn. Like I don't know if it's coming off the back there or if that's the.
It's hard to tell.
I didn't
that might be the magnet back
Bob's.
there.
Look at that speaker wire. Turntable city there in the background. On that last one.
Yeah.
Look at those
and the turntables at these shows can get crazy high end. Like pause right there, just out of curiosity.
Look at those guys.
Back up one on the pricing. Does it have any turntables there?
The phono cartridge alone is $5,000.
Yeah. So I mean, yikes. Yeah, it gets on up there.
The turntables aren't listed.
Oh no, it is. Third one down. HW40. It's $22,000 for the turntable. $5,000 for the phono cartridge.
Look at these guys.
Yeah.
Was there just a switcher on there for him to be able to play, or is that one speaker?
That's one speaker. They're all connected. They use like these arms.
Okay. Interesting.
Comb filtering.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Comb filtering.
Again, just different designs, philosophies. Pretty cool, man. Well, Bob, appreciate you sharing your photos with us. That was cool because Ryan didn't take
Ian
any.
too. No, I didn't.
Oh, that was Ian's as well.
I was too encapsulated into the experience.
You're too busy running out of each room. As soon as you get
someone else
out,
there were some times where I would just be listening to something and then just abruptly get up and leave.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I did that too. I went into a room and I expected it to be amazing because they're really high-end speakers. And a lot of people speak very, very highly about them. And I was there literally for part of a song and I went, yikes. And I left.
I think it's very important and it puts into context how much the price doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So price doesn't necessarily, well, you saw the Polks. The Polks were, how much were the R200s? What are those?
$1,300 or $1,400 a pair.
Okay. Yeah. And you're comparing
so
that
expensive
to
for
hundreds of thousands
common man,
of dollars.
But
correct.
In the grand scheme of things, great.
Yeah, I bet you had one there, Tony.
No, we went and saw Mark's room.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's what he's referring to.
And that was great.
Nice.
That was a lot of fun. Mark has been a man on a mission, and that theater is well put together.
Nice.
It's
nice.
He's got Boss in there now. He's got Near Field. He's done some work. It was good.
And you guys had a lot of people there, judging by the
I
Discord
think it
photo.
was
It
like,
was like
eight
20 people or
people or
something.
something. Yeah, it was a good time. Caught up with Nick and Tony. Mark broke out his spreadsheets on all of his testing and all this other stuff. It was cool to see all of his frequency response charts and all that. It was great. I really enjoyed that. That was the highlight of the weekend. Was going to see that.
So he still has his book, right?
Oh yeah, I think he has more than one book now.
So if you watch my home theater tour of his, he pulls out this book, man. I mean, he's got like everything documented. It's very, very well organized, man. But that's cool, man. Yeah, he's made some serious upgrades since I was there.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Ian said his room's insanely good. The bass was crazy.
Well, he has 7 captivators.
Wow.
4,000s.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was talking to Scott was there. Scott knew he was there. And I told him that for us that are over, when you break like the 4 captivator threshold, you should be able to join like an exclusive club.
And you should get like medallions from Jeff.
Should get leather jackets.
Tony, make that happen, man.
And you should get like a chevron for every captivator you have. And for the different types of captivators, they should be different colors.
Interesting.
So the captivator club or the
captivator club. That sounds cool. I wouldn't be able to join it, but I'm okay with that. I'm a loner. Mark's room is giving me ideas. Not 7 captivators though. Wife will kill me with a sub.
Well, then
awesome.
No, I won't say that.
So did you get the wind demo at Mark's? Did he have the 4D wind machine?
Yeah. Not throwing shade at Mark, but he was a little too heavy on the wind profiles.
It was more like tornado kind of.
No, it was just used a little bit too much. Like there were times where it was great and it was very well done, but there were times where it was just a little too much.
Was it when you put the sand in the windstorm and it got sand in your eyes?
No, like there was Mark. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna throw this out there. There was a time in what's the movie with Lady Gaga?
Stars Born.
Stars Born, where she's walking out onto stage and you get hit with wind. And Mark looks at me and goes, "She's walking really fast." That was the reason.
So now, granted, you have to program the wind project. So he inserted that. I found it. Now, I had a totally different experience. I went to Tony, which is Salk in the or SOWK in the chat, and I still remember one scene where I don't know what movie it was, but somebody walks over to a window and opens up a window, and right at that time, you just feel this really light, like the fan was on super low, but you just barely feel the wind, and then as soon as they shut it, the wind stops. So that's when it's done. Like it's kind of like seasoning, man. If you put a little bit of seasoning on something on a meal, it tastes great. Put a lot of it on there, it just kind of ruins
it. Diluted it a little bit.
Yeah,
but there were times when it was very well done.
Awesome. Well, that's super, super cool.
So I still enjoy it.
That's awesome. They were blowing wind, man. Different kind of wind.
Tony brought one of those fans over to my house one time for me to play with, and I loved it. Like I really like it.
I just don't need something else that I need to incorporate right now.
Well, eventually Tony and Nick's the programmer for that. Eventually they're going to make it like the plans of No, they don't. They really don't want to.
Should. I've told them to do it.
I told them I'd build their website. I'll help promote it on my YouTube channel because I think it's pretty amazing. I think a lot of people would enjoy it. They're just doing it for the true joy of it and the hobby of it. And that's cool. But if it ever comes to the point to where they have like and the hardest thing was finding the right fans, that people can just readily buy. And so once they get that kind of nailed down, I think that the programming's fine. Nick's software is solid. That's not the issue. So
it's got a lot of moving parts. That's the reason I haven't incorporated.
Mark is in the house. So Mark is the one that has the incredible system we were just talking about. Super cool. Glad he could.
It was very well done. Mark, you did a great job.
Yeah.
And then I threw shade at you for the fans.
So rewind a bit. What is that? Oh, okay. I got you. Oh, no. Tony's rewind a bit. That's funny. Well, super cool, man. I love hearing about experiences, and I love the fact that we get a chance to share a hobby with each other. And so when people like Mark are gracious enough to open up their homes, bring guests in, have some really fun demos, and really just share the passion that we all share, man, that's, to me, that's the best part of this hobby. The gear is cool, speakers are fun, amplifiers are great, tactile transducers move you. But if it weren't for the relationships that we establish, I don't think it'd be near as fun. So,
And that was a big part of why AXPONA was fun, because a lot of the rooms were let down. So it was going with other people was a ton of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
sure.
But I'm going to reemphasize this, guys. The cost of gear means nothing.
Yeah, sure.
Because if AXPONA is any showcase of this,
yeah,
the more expensive it got, almost the worse it got. So there was some great, not very expensive pieces of gear there, and they were actually a lot of my favorites that did the best at the show.
Sure. And kind of to piggyback on that, so I heard a DIY sound group home theater. This is a big home theater. And going into it, I thought, okay, DIY, I know you get a lot of bang for your buck. And you always hear people say, like, it sounds great for the money, you know, is what you typically hear. It sounded phenomenal. Like one of the best home theaters that I've experienced. It was really, really done well. And again, it's one of those things that price didn't dictate. I mean, he could have went with any number of speakers that cost a whole lot more, but it doesn't always equate to, you know, better performance. So Tony, Joe's
wanting to incorporate those at M-Wave.
Wanting the Wind project. I don't want to add this to Ryan.
I'm not doing it.
That'd be kind of cool, man. If we
could set that
up in one of the rooms or something, that'd be sweet.
It's a lot of moving parts, fellas. Make sure you know that before you.
What's that?
It's a lot of moving parts. To get that set up, there's a lot. You got to have a little Raspberry Pi. You got to have software timestamps. You got to have the fans. You got to have the do-it-yourself little engine, the relay, the connectors, all that stuff. You got to have it all time aligned. It's a lot of setup.
Yep.
Yeah. Gregory, you asked who is Mark. Mark is Geotech in the chat right here. And Mark has an incredible home theater. I did a tour of his setup. It's been several years ago.
It's changed.
But a lot has undergone development. So there's a guide. I love it, dude. The man, the myth, the legend. Super cool, man. All right. All right, shall we jump to questions? Any other thoughts on AXPONA?
I have a couple of questions. Did you guys tell us about the headphone rooms? Did they have that giant hall with headphones there?
They did. Sure? We didn't bother.
Oh, you didn't even go in?
No.
Oh,
I really don't like sharing ear space with strangers.
Yeah.
Then you probably didn't hear the Smith Realizer, because that would be in. It was in a hotel room. It's really cool. They use the Sennheiser 800 headphones, and it simulates. They use inner ear microphones, so that like the microphone goes in your ear canal, and they measure a true 7.1 system, 7.1.4, so a true Dolby Atmos system from inside your ears.
Right.
And then the system programs that into the headphones, and so now your headphones, they put a little gyro. And this was at AXPONA in 2019 and 17, I think. Oh, Randy's just saying in the chat it wasn't even there this year. But they put a little gyro on top of your headphones. So when you take your headphones on and off, it disengages the headphones and engages the 7.1.4 system. It's done so well. And they have to measure it. It's specifically for you. My measurements won't work for Ryan, and they won't work for Michael. Everyone has to have individual measurements, but they take the time to do it. You cannot, I mean, it sounds crazy to say it, but you cannot tell when you take the headphones on and off, because it's that good. And the device is expensive, but the technology is incredible.
Maybe it's because the Sennheiser HD 800s are open back, and it's just the speakers playing the whole time.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. And then the Avant-Garde, did you see those with the giant horns? Did you hear those this time?
I didn't see them.
Oh, those are a lot of fun too. But maybe those little salad bowl ones you talked about would be of a similar fashion.
Only the only salad bowls I saw were the ones that I showed the pictures of. That was it.
So I didn't see SVS in the picture routine. I didn't see HSU. Were they there this year? The more mainstream smaller internet vendors?
I don't think so.
I don't know if they do like any shows, Rhythmic, HSU, or Shoe.
They were at AXPONA in 2019 for sure.
Really?
'Cause I went to the rooms and met.
Yeah, but I think
Dr. Drew
AXPONA
and-
burned a lot of people.
Yes.
For sure, unfortunately.
Question time?
Yeah. So Randy says he ate lunch with James Larson. Said somewhat similar thing called Brachiosaurus or something like that. Not sure what that is.
Emotiva have a booth this year?
They did somewhere.
I thought
We didn't
somebody
see
said
it.
that they were there.
They used to have a full like Atmos system with the rafter ceiling stuff, and JTR did too in 2019 and 2017. But I don't think JTR went this year, right?
No,
Mm-hmm.
Was Seaton Sound there? Mark Seaton?
don't think so.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys backed out.
So how do you know how many vendors? Was it like I think the year we went was close to like 800. Was it anywhere near that much? Was it
Wow,
that many?
800 brands.
I don't
That's a lot.
think so.
How many floors? Because that's a big hotel, right?
So floors
lot of
1 through
floors.
6, and then floors 11 through 16.
Okay. And there's probably say 20 to 30 rooms.
There
on
was a
floor,
lot.
maybe,
Yeah,
probably.
there was a lot. So several hundred
Yeah, easily.
for sure. JD Expert, what did we have for dinner? I had Mexican food. I had a quesadilla.
I don't even know what I had.
I haven't had dinner yet.
Yeah, I don't know what I had. Tells you it was amazing. Well, I had leftover chicken pot pie. What it was. It was amazing.
I hope your wife didn't cook it
No, it was just
for what
public.
you just said.
Nah, my wife doesn't cook a lot. Now, when she does cook, it's amazing because she cooks. My favorite is lasagna. She does great with lasagna, home cooked lasagna from scratch, and she does a really, really good stuffed shells. I don't do a whole lot of cooking. I've been doing hibachi on the grill, so that I cook.
And your pizza.
And the pizza, homemade pizza with the unikuru. That's been fun. Oh, except, oh my goodness.
Did you burn something?
No, let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
House almost catch on fire?
No, I was so bummed. I couldn't believe it. I was kind of mad. All right, so yeah, I'll just show you. That's terrible. Right,
We can't see that.
You dropped it.
I did. Oh man. Yeah, it's washed out because of my lighting.
Pizza down.
Yeah, dude, that thing took a nosedive. I went to open up the oven and I looked in and something caught on fire in there. And so I'm trying to keep, preserve the pizza. So I pulled the whole pizza out with one hand. And so I'm holding it on my left over here. Then I take the small turning peel and I'm putting out the fire, and I wasn't looking at my left hand, and that joker just went bloop right on the floor. I was like, really? Yeah, pizza down, need a medic. I was so mad at myself. Like, really? That thing was good because Jessica makes it. She preps it, and then I cook it. But there is a definite learning curve using the unikuru, especially a big pizza, like a 16-inch pizza. It's kind of hard to handle. So I'm still
That's
learning.
a big pizza.
It is.
That's not small.
No, we really should take maybe because we get our pizza dough from Publix, and so they make it. We haven't gotten to the point where we're physically making our own dough to be able to make smaller pizzas, but it'd be nice to make, even like a 10-inch pizza would be great, but we're making like pizzas this big, man, and I'm spinning it. Yeah. Chris says he loves the uni. I did have one job, Jed, and I failed miserably. Yeah.
So Ryan, Giordano's, is that how you say it? Giordano's or something like that? Or Lou Malnati's?
What's a pizza?
Which one did you like better?
Illuminati's.
Yeah, Lou's is fantastic.
But the better one was Pequod's.
Oh, I haven't had that one.
Yeah, we ate pizza 3 nights in a row.
Nice.
Too much or just
No.
right?
I could do it
good
again.
Pizza. I like good pizza.
Pequod's
right,
was, I think, the best that we had.
Let's jump into some questions here.
So if you guys have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat, and we'll star them as we go.
Yep.
Even if it's about AXPONA and how miserable it was for me, that's fine. I can relive it for you.
Sasakan says, if you're taking questions later, which we are, is there a benefit to using subwoofers without DSP if you're going to use a mini DSP for bass management? Less added delay, less processing, less ADC, DAC conversions. What are your thoughts?
Works without DSP if you're going to use. I'm not sure what he means.
I'm not either.
Well, all right. So some subwoofer, let's say ProListen, has built-in DSP. I don't know if he's talking about like an SVS subwoofer that has some DSP PEQ kind of functionality. My understanding is he's saying, is it okay to use a subwoofer that doesn't have any of that because he's planning on using mini DSP? And I think that would be perfectly fine.
I don't know any of us that use them with DSP.
Right. I think if you don't use like a mini DSP, maybe the built-in DSP would be beneficial to you. So,
or the AVRs. I mean, DSP is just adding EQ and phase and that kind of stuff. Potentially HPF, high pass filter. Your AVR will do some of that when you do your auto EQ routine.
Yeah, sure.
If he wants to, depending on if he can EQ them individually or not in the AVR. He may be wanting to not co-locate, and then you're going to need to have them individually EQ'd. But I wouldn't worry about having DSP on the subs if you're going to use a mini DSP. You're going to be fine.
Yep. Finster, appreciate the $7 super chat. Have Paradigm Surround 1 on walls at surrounds and Atmos 7.2.4. Would you recommend going to Paradigm CJ Pro in walls? If so, would they be placed at 90 degrees? So there are lots of questions in here.
Let's look those speakers up.
Pull it up there. Paradigm CJ Pro.
They look like they have an aimable tweeter.
Can you put them on screen, Michael?
If you've got them, Jonathan, I'm seeing.
I got them. I can share.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm looking at something else there.
I'm assuming he's talking about these. That's what came up when I searched for CI Pro. Maybe they have different sizes too.
Yeah.
I think he's just talking CI Pro in general. So
I said CJ Pro. No wonder
go
I
up,
couldn't
go
find
up to the top, Jonathan.
There
you go.
There we go.
Okay, so there's some in walls because he says C1 or CI Pro in walls.
Surround 1.
So is there a specific model, Finster? Let me know in the chat.
So the Surround 1 MSRP is $330. So my assumption is he's going to look at something that costs about the same, maybe the P80 IWV2 and the. Let me pull up this speaker so you guys can see it.
For end walls that don't have aimable tweeters, you're going to want to make sure your placement is sound and your axis response is correct, that you're in the range that's defined. Yeah.
So this is the Surround 1.
You sharing your screen now? I'll quit.
He said the rectangular ones there.
Yeah.
It's the ones that he's considering.
That's what he has, though. He
has these, right? And then he's switching to something here.
Surround 1 on walls, right? As it surrounds. And then maybe switching to the CI Pro in walls.
When you say the rectangle ones there,
I think he's talking about that's what he's looking at. Maybe one of those top 3 or the bottom.
But they're all rectangles.
He says CI Pro P80. Appreciate the
this one.
Additional information.
The P80 IWV2.
All right, click on that one.
Jonathan, that's you.
Oh, I thought you had it again.
No. How? It's on your screen.
I never pulled. I didn't pull up the thing he pulled up. He just took it over for a minute.
Top one, middle, down.
Which, this one here?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So he's wondering, would this be an upgrade for him over the Surround 1 on walls?
Doesn't have an aimable tweeter.
Where's the specs on here? Here we go. Specifications.
Way at the bottom.
Can you zoom in anymore, Jonathan?
Sure.
There you go.
I gotta make the screen bigger to see it.
It's got an 8-inch mid bass.
Down to 30 hertz.
1-inch tweeter.
No, down to 55 hertz. So what is the difference on that? It's got frequency responses down to 55 hertz, but then it says low frequency extension 30 hertz.
This is probably tend to be down here, probably, as a guess.
So the Surround 1s have a low frequency extension of 71 hertz.
Yeah, but the Surround 1 was a design that was like, what is it, a dipole or something, where you got shooting off both sides.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the world of Atmos, they say those people still love them. I'm not telling you not to use them if you love them, but in the proper order of things, I think with the world of object-based audio, you are supposed to steer away from those kind.
I think they're great if you get if the speaker has to be very close to you.
Yeah.
Because then it's not as localized, it's a little wider.
Exactly. And so I literally just experienced that when we upgraded to the JTR speakers, because before I had the clips, they were wide dispersion, like you said, kind of bipole design. You've got a tweeter and a mid-range firing one direction, tweeter and mid-range firing the other direction. I always enjoyed it, but I was always wondering, like, what would it sound to have a direct radiating speaker just firing straight? And I really, really like being able to hear where the speaker, like where the sound is coming from. It allows for when something's panning from, say, my back rear Atmos to my front rear or front Atmos, it's very specific versus it's just kind of back there somewhere. But I think Ryan's right. When you have maybe a couch up against the wall, having a wide dispersion would be more beneficial because you're trying to kind of get around you.
Yeah.
Are you seeing this comparison here?
Yep.
I have a little bit of a problem recommending a speaker that costs $550 for what this is doing, because I think you can accomplish that for a lot less personally. But if you are glued to Paradigm, if you really love it, then I'm not going to tell you no. I just don't think that's necessarily it's not the cat's meow on bargains, if you will.
And that's $550 a pair, right? I'm assuming.
I thought it was $550 each.
It looks like $550 each.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, this is probably, I mean, this is 2 4.5-inch drivers. It's lower sensitivity. It's the same power handling. This isn't going to be a world of difference, really. It's going to sound different because this is a bidirectional, like two-way speaker. You got a 4.5 over here, a 4.5 here. It's shooting off left.
Yeah, but
right.
the P80 is an 8-inch driver.
Yeah,
does dig a little bit deeper, but you're going to send that.
You're going to, in my opinion, have a little bit better time, at least based on the.
You're not going to get that much more out of them, though. Like the woofer's larger, but it's not a. This isn't a high efficiency speaker, and it isn't like a heavy duty driver because this is not. Yeah, I mean that's a small number for 8-inch driver.
I have to agree with Jonathan that there's going to be better options for that money.
Especially if you're considering replacing your whole room, like you're saying, hey, I have these now. I'd like to go to a total new system. Steer a different direction, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree. Who was it that said that? Finster?
That was Finster. Yep.
Finster, are you in Canada? I think you are, since you donated CA $6.99. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Paradigm is up there in Canada.
Yeah, they are. They are. So
maybe he's got a beat on a better price and stuff. Maybe he's not looking at MSRP, and that can change the situation.
Sure. So Chris mentioned that he went from dipole to direct radiating, and it's better. So he likes it in his setup.
I think it depends on the situation. In most situations, it's better. But if the speaker's like right next to your head, I think you want something that's a dipole.
Yeah,
or a bipolar.
I agree. Like I said, I think that's a viable solution to it. All right, here's a thought. So Tristan says MadVR Mark II just came out. We saw the post and the press release on that, last week? So Ryan's got the new body behind him. That is a big MadVR, man. That thing's like half the size of your room.
Dude, like 15 feet tall. Got to have a space by itself.
So yeah,
we talk big GPUs. We take it to the next level.
Give us the super short synopsis. What are the differences between the Mark II and the original?
So the biggest reason that we had to change things, and this is what I think a lot of people are missing over, is that we went to a new GPU. It's the 4080 from NVIDIA. And the drawback to that is the 4080 is enormous, right? It's not a small card. With the case we were using previously, it will not fit. So we couldn't say, and we've gotten some flack for this on the AVS, so I think I'll just talk about this now. We did say previously that there's an upgrade path. We never said what the upgrade path would be on the Extreme, but there is an upgrade path. Now, with the previous case, the 4080 does not fit in it.
Right,
so we
physically.
couldn't offer the upgrade of just the GPU, which
Right.
is why we brought it in together with a new case. So yes, it's maybe a little more expensive than people thought it would be, but it was the only option available because the GPU physically does not fit. It's too big. Here going forward, the case will have no problem. At least we hope so.
Right. Until they make a 1280.
I mean, we're kind of at the mercy of what they do, but we've designed.
Hopefully, there's room for expansion.
Ways and
bigger ones.
Ways for expansion, and you're getting more than that. The case is gorgeous. I mean, it's a custom case instead of off the shelf. It's you got a lot more headroom. There's new cooling that's designed for it. 5-year warranty instead of 3. So, I think it's a win-win.
I'm assuming they're using the same software though, right?
Yep. Yep. And all of everything's backwards compatible. So even if you stay with the 3080 or the Mark I, depending whatever version it is, all the software still works. It's not like we're going to stop supporting the previous generation. I mean, we're still supporting the NVs that came out a few years ago, and there's no thing on the cards that's going to say we're going to stop supporting them. They're still going to continue to get updates.
Jimmy says, last week people were asking about long run for subwoofer. I've been using a 50-foot RG6 cable with coaxial RCA ends. Is there a reason you're not recommending this option?
No, I've done that before. It works fine. It's just I guess if you had 50-foot RG6 laying around, it'd be great. Those little connectors are $3 or $4 on each end, and you got your cable. But it's not very flexible stuff, as you're aware.
Pretty stiff.
Yeah, you lay it on the carpet, it'll like be doing this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know how you anchor it down. If it's in a wall or something, it'll be fine. That's a good option.
Mid-bass Maestro says, when I level match my speakers with REW, my side surrounds always seem to stand out too much. Have you guys experienced this? Well, they are slightly in front of my listening position. I haven't experienced that. No. Usually, if anything, on my last speakers, my clip speakers, Odyssey always, when I would check the level match on my like SPL meter, my side surrounds and my rear surrounds were always a little bit low. They weren't the same level. So I always had to bump those up a little bit. But I've never had them too loud.
So if he's using like dynamic EQ with Odyssey or whatever flavor of that kind of stuff they use at lower volumes, dynamic EQ on an Odyssey brand receiver will pump that volume of the surround speakers and the bass up. So the subwoofers go up in volume and the surround speakers go up in volume and the Atmos speakers go up in volume. And there's an offset that you can use to change that level. But if you don't use that and you're just using Odyssey dynamic EQ, I can totally see it then. You'll set it to a level, but as you turn it down, it raises that volume and it does it too aggressively. So if you're using like an Odyssey product, try turning off dynamic EQ mid-bass Maestro and see if that fixes your issue. Or whatever it is. Or change the offset. I think they have like -5, -10, -15. You can try a -15 to make it a less aggressive offset.
Cool. Eric, appreciate the $10 super chat. He says that, Ryan, what are your thoughts on the dipole base panel setup with the Martin Logans, excluding woofers by Magnapan Zanzen? Did you hear either of them?
Base panel setup?
Base panel setup with the Martin Logans.
Is he?
Eric, give us
are
some
you
more
just
context.
talking about like how the subs are set up in like their balance force or their masterpiece level products where they're dual opposed, or was there a specific product that there was one, I think, with the CLS that they released a long time ago that had like an array of 4 subs on top of each other to handle the low frequency? I mean, I heard the Renaissance that were there, but I have the Renaissance in my theater, so I didn't spend really any time with them. And then the other room was the Martin Logan XT F200s, and I talked to Corey, who's from Martin Logan. He was running the room, but I didn't really spend any time in there because they're in my living room.
Right.
So I heard the Magnapans. The Magnapans are just even more narrow than the Martin Logans because they don't have that curved front fascia. So I think they're great. I don't like them as much as the Martin Logans, but maybe I'm a fanboy.
Maybe
it's possible.
We all have our biases.
But Eric, if you can expand maybe on what you mean, I can come back to that.
Yeah, just drop a note in the super chat. We'll keep an eye on it. I mean, not in the super chat. Drop a note in the chat.
Yeah, just spend more money and we'll answer your question.
Somebody did that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, no, man. You already you did the super
we'll
chat.
Catch it when it comes up and we'll go right to it.
Yeah, we'll look at it. Martin says, for home theater, is there a difference between two speakers that have identical tweeters but different size woofers if subwoofers are used, like the Arendelle 1973 versus the 1973S monitors?
Who wants to start?
Two identical speakers.
1973, 1973S.
Yep.
Let's look.
So just different size woofers. Interesting.
I mean, the speaker's going to be able to dig deeper.
But you're using a subwoofer is kind of his question.
Depends
and
on
like you've even said it. You've even said that, you don't think you'll hear much difference between, let's say, a floor standing speaker.
But there is a difference.
So what difference is then? What do you hear?
It depends on where you set your crossover.
He says 1723 or 1961.
I'd have to see the speakers.
Well,
they look like it's the same thing with just one extra driver on it,
Mm-hmm.
really, when I'm on their site.
Are they different sizes?
I'm going to say here, I can share it if you guys don't have it.
He says different size woofers.
Share screen.
And Travis is saying 1723 and 1961.
So here's the 1723S, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the down here was 1723. That's S.
That's going to be a surround.
Make this smaller so we can see more at once. So here's
I see the little bookshelf on the bottom left.
They're all labeled S. S, 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 S. What's going on here? They're all S on this page. Am I only? Oh, I'm in S.
That's the series.
Okay.
1723S series.
Here's 1723. Let's just do this.
And I think he's saying versus the 1961.
Okay, so here's the non-S and here's the S. So
different size driver, he was saying. Like maybe one's doing a 6.5 and one's doing an 8.
Two 8-inch drivers.
Okay.
Versus
the other one's 6.5s.
Doesn't have the same order of
where they're located.
Oh, there it is. 2 6.5.
Okay. So you got using the same tweeter, got different size cabinets. One's using dual 8s, one's using dual 6.5s. What kind of, if you're using that paired with a subwoofer, what could you expect to hear different?
I don't think there's going to be much difference, honestly.
Output.
Yeah, I mean, neither of those is going to be monster performers down low. Like your subwoofers, if you got capable subwoofers, you're probably not going to hear much difference. Like, I don't. Go ahead, Ryan.
I simply meant output in SPL due to the larger driver. And is there a difference in power handling?
That's what I'm going to check now. So let's do the same thing.
Hi-Fi Home Theater says the bigger 1723 will have a bit more neutral upper mid-range than the smaller 1723S.
So let's take a look here. So two-way, it's got the same tweeter in it. We already talked about the driver size being different.
Mm-hmm.
The crossover frequency on both is 1500, so it's got the same crossover board.
Mm-hmm.
Darn near the same sensitivity, 89 versus 89.7. Get an extra 100 watt power handling.
So scroll down. Travis said they've got all their measurements at the bottom, frequency response and some charts there.
So they're both rolling off at about 100 hertz here. See that?
Mm-hmm. So they don't dig super deep.
No,
that's a crazy roll off.
I don't think you're going to notice much difference between these, honestly.
Well, if the charts are accurate, no.
Mm-hmm.
Can you put them side by side?
That is side by side.
That's the two of them.
Oh, over top of each other?
No. This was sealed versus vented 2 ports. Like this, the non-S allows you to do a port change configuration.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently this one does too. But the point being, they're both rolling off at 100 hertz pretty good. Right. So you're going to use a 90 hertz crossover or 100 hertz crossover on these? Probably.
I think you just may have a few more dB of output on the 8-inch version.
Yeah, and you're
not massive difference there.
No.
Probably not even limited on output with the woofers. You're probably limited on output with the tweeter because it's just a 1-inch tweeter, a 1-inch. So that's probably your limitation, and that's going to be the same on both these guys. So, yeah, I wouldn't sweat over it, on that. And I'll give you a little bit of a
budget.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a background on my own room. I think we've talked about this in a previous podcast too. So let me stop share. You see that these line arrays, they have a base extension module that adds 4 woofers down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried them in my room, and I really couldn't tell the difference. And I use a 90 hertz crossover. Now, granted, I have a lot of subs in here, but whereas like if I turn the subs off, I could tell a difference if I made them run full range. But if I use my 90 hertz crossover and I'm running my subs with the extensions without, I tried it in the stereo pair at the front of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell.
Really didn't hear nothing.
To the point where I was like, this doesn't do me any good.
Now, there may have been a measurable difference, but if your ears can't pick it up, I don't know that it matters.
Right.
Very cool, man. Appreciate the question. Gabe says, I have a mini DSP. I have a great flat response from 16 hertz to about 80 hertz. And no matter what I do, I can't get the higher hertz to flatten. Any advice? I messed with all the crossovers and it does not help.
Higher hertz, you mean like 70, 80, 90 type range?
Or above 80.
So, Gabe, you'll have to give us a little bit more information, but you may have some sort of issue with a phase integration between the subwoofer and the main speaker at the crossover point. So if your receiver set to 80 or 90, you might have a dip there that you need to invert the phase on your subs potentially, or switch the speaker on your left or right. That's real common. So it's not, your receiver won't pick it up, and it just maybe something you have to investigate. The other thing is, if you just have a single sub, you may have a placement issue, and you're not going to be able to EQ out of a mode or a null. You're going to have to move the sub or move the seats. Rotate it, move it over 6 inches, that kind of stuff. You can make a lot of changes if you just have a single sub. And that's why we recommend having more than one sub if you're in that situation, because you can kind of help fill those nulls by having more than one in placement. And then the modes kind of will disappear too if you have more than one sub. If you've changed the crossover, I see you said you messed with all the crossover, it doesn't help. Change your, assume you're measuring, because you have a mini BSP and you're looking at response. Just invert the phase on the sub and just see what happens, and then move your crossover point. Turn off all your smoothing and see if you have a real steep narrow dip at your crossover point. And if you do, you probably have phase problems. So then invert your sub and see what happens, or switch your speaker wire around. Other than that,
you guys have way more experience on mini DSP than I do. That's awesome. I was looking at, I was trying to see if he had replied. Joe says, just joined the chat. Sorry if you already talked about this. YouTube page, Pure Media's system tested SVS PB16 versus the RP1600, and the RP1600 outperformed the PB60. Really? Interesting.
If that's true, that's big.
Yeah, because Clips even told me, they said the RP1600 is not the beast that they have been working on. That's still in development. That's supposed to compete with the PB16. The RP16 was actually targeted to compete with the PB4000. So the smaller sub. Interesting.
Look at the Warrior Dash race or whatever he's in the picture there. I'd like to know more about that race. Those are pretty fun.
What is it?
Well, I don't know which race it is, but see, he's wearing a tag and he's carrying it might be like a Spartan race, or it might be a Warrior Dash race, or something where it's competitive race where you have obstacles and like difficult endeavors that you're tasked with.
Nice. RH guy says, is there an easy way to play music into 3 rooms in my house from my main AVR? So he's getting into multi-room sourcing.
Zones.
So usually you have zone 1, 2.
That's not easy though, and probably requires rewiring.
So
the easiest way there is probably to do something with, if you're just doing well, you could do this with anything, to do something with like a Blue Sound node and then put power nodes or powered speakers in the other zones. And then you can use the node to pick up the output that's coming from the AVR and pump it into the wireless connections of all the other speakers. Sonos has something similar, but I just prefer Blue Sound. I think it's more of a audiophile level. I think I like their app more than Sonos, and I like their products better. But I think that's as easy as it gets outside of using something like Hios, but I'm not a huge fan of Hios. So something like a node, pump into powered speakers from the same manufacturer with Blue Sound, or Sonos makes something, I think it's called the Port, and then you do the same thing either to Sonos amps or like ARCs or whatever else powered speakers you're going to use, and they can all jump and connect with one another and do it that way.
I did a home theater tour, and he was using the Sonos, I think it was the Sonos amps for that very reason.
Yeah, I actually use a couple Blue Sounds. I've got a Blue Sound node that I use as a streamer in my main theater, and then I've got a power node that I use to drive my F200s from Martin Logan. It was actually driving the S7Ts, so I think it's 80 watts per channel, so pretty capable little box, and it supports CEC and a bunch of other stuff. So you could just use it if you're just driving 2 channels instead of an AVR. It's a great little piece of kit, not overly expensive.
JD the expert says, what is the biggest system that you guys have heard of? Like 18.8.4?
Oh, that's Ryan's. He's got like a 47.2.9.
For sure, man.
It's only 11.7.12. Okay, just stop.
So, and I know he says heard of, but maybe what is even the biggest system that you've demoed?
Mine.
It really is Ryan.
Which is what? What are you at right now?
11.7.12.
So you weren't kidding.
No.
Oh my gosh. But you don't have all your subwoofers set up right now, right?
Yeah.
Have you gotten all of them?
Not the new 4000s, but I've got the RTJ sub 18s in there.
Oh, okay. So you still, man. Okay. Wow.
There's 918s in there right now.
Yeah. JD the expert, I'm telling you, man, the guys in Kansas City, they're a little off, man.
We corrupted a couple more while we were in Chicago.
Mark's heading that direction.
We had a couple guys come from at the show that met us at Mark's, and they're like, yeah, I'm all set. And then by the time they were leaving, like, this wasn't a good idea.
Mercy. Give me a second. I'm going to go.
Anybody that wants to come hear them, I mean, I have an open door, as do some of the other guys here in Kansas City. If you come in, happy to showcase it. Happy to just hang out and enjoy the session. But it is, as Joe People says, it's a little weird that I have more speakers on my ceiling than I do in my bed layer.
Yeah, that's interesting. Brian said he's on his way. He's gonna be at M-Wave.
Nice.
So he's gonna get a chance to hear it. He's one of our VIP platinums. So he's building his theater room. He's one of my patrons, man. I'm excited. He's building a really sweet per listen home theater. So super cool. I think he bought the NZ9 from you.
Yep.
So he's got an NZ9. It ships tomorrow.
It does.
Brian, it's on its way, buddy. Got to get that room finished so you can enjoy it.
Yeah, it's coming.
I think he's going with Brian. Let me know in the chat. 155 inch, I think is what he told me. He's got the K-scape he's ordering. So yeah, man. Ryan is rocking a Storm audio processor.
32 channel Storm, and the room can get down to 7 flat. Oh, don't laugh. You can do like 5.
It's kind of weak.
I'm laughing
weak
at the
sauce.
comments. I'm laughing at the comments. Someone said,
-10.
how low does it go? And I
-10. It's kind of weak sauce, Ryan.
Nah,
Just saying.
yours and Michael's can go lower than mine as far as flat frequency response.
It's all good.
And you're the one, Jonathan, you're the one that corrupted me when I came over there and had the rels. You started this whole thing.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. It's fine. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's your fault.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Shampoo,
You're the one that I tell my wife to hate because of everything.
Oh, come on.
I don't do that.
Shampoo, I'd recommend you emailing sales@jtrspeakers.com. Tony's pretty good about answering it. He may still be in the chat, SOWK, to find out if they ship to Australia. I know Jeff ships pretty much all over the world.
Yep, he does.
So I would imagine that might be possible. I don't know. So, but definitely if you're emailing Jeff directly, yeah, you're probably not going to hear back. Okay, cool. So
There's Tony right there.
We do. Just waiting for FedEx rates. Okay, cool. So as soon as they get those, they'll get back with you. Appreciate that, Tony. Love you too, JD the expert. You rock, man. He needed some laughs tonight.
Ryan's doing weird things with his hands again.
I got it right the first time. It wasn't like me.
Why is it always over your eyeball?
I don't know.
I heart. See?
Yeah.
I heart.
boy.
I got it. That's like something at the Taylor Swift concert or something.
Well, maybe I was there.
My daughter went there. She had a great time.
It was great.
Magic Lakes picked up 3 JBL 590s LCR for my secondary setup. It's got 2 setups.
Secondary.
Yeah. Planning on getting more surrounds. Imagine that. Rears. Do you guys think I should mount or could mount the 530s on the ceiling? I feel that they would blend in perfectly with the 590s.
What are the 530s?
They're a little bookshelf. That's a great idea.
Then yes.
That's in the same series. It has the same tweeter.
Join the dark side with me. Drill into those babies.
Yeah. Ryan don't care.
Nope.
Hey, I did not let Jeff and Tony drill into mine.
I sent the videos to Martin Logan.
Word of caution, Magic Lakes. Pull the woofer out of one of your
Yes.
speakers and look where the crossover board is. If it's on the back or the ceiling of the inside, you do not want to drill into that crossover board.
Ooh, good idea.
Well, it's also going to be beneficial to look in there and figure out how thick the wood is. And then if they are if they're on the back or lower or not mounted right on the wood, you could use shorter screws. But it's just going to be a discovery session that I think is well worth it.
And Ryan, you probably have some recommendation on mounts, right? Because you had to fight kind of figuring out which mounts work.
I don't make my mounts anymore. It was very sad. So then I had to buy these cheap things that I don't like. And they get the job done, but I don't really have a recommendation right now. I really wanted the mounts I had, but they don't make them anymore. I couldn't find them.
You just have like blue tack holding them on up there, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a life and death situation, especially with the Voice of God one. I make everybody sitting in the main listening position wear a helmet.
That's like a 4D experience, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when like
Godzilla comes down and things are falling off buildings, you just may die. I gotta sign a waiver before you come into the room.
Oh boy.
M-Wave waivers. That's what we need to add that to our VIPs. That's hilarious. Oh, did you put something else up there?
That's all right.
I didn't mean to.
Oh, go ahead.
It was just with the theme. I had said that the screws would help the power output on the speaker if they went into the crossover board.
Yeah. Good luck with that one.
Help something.
Zyndeko says Odyssey dynamic EQ on or off for you guys. Having it on sounds so much better to me, but you have to adjust the reference level offset for different media. So that's kind of a challenge there. So does Dirac Live or something have something similar? So Dirac Live does not have like a dynamic EQ that I'm aware of.
The Storm does itself, but Dirac doesn't.
But with Dirac, you've got several different like presets. So you could probably set kind of like right?
Presets in what way?
Not presets, but like
house curves?
No, like you can save 1, 2, 3, like measurement.
Well, you can on the Storm. I don't know what's going to happen with the Massimo stuff. I don't know how they're going to implement it. I haven't seen it yet. So I'm not sure.
I'm just saying like a product that already has direct live.
The Storm you can, absolutely.
Okay.
But because Dirac isn't a one-size-fits-all product,
Mm-hmm.
it's just given the tools to the implementers, and then they implement it. I don't know outside of Storm how that's being done because it's not the same. I'm personally not I try and strip out as many dynamic or features that are making changes to any of my audio or video as possible.
So, all right. So where I'm going with this, I reviewed the Monoprice HTP1. So I remember specifically it has like 3 different, what do you call those besides not presets?
Profiles.
There you go. So he could create one with one profile that has say one kind of house curve. He could create another one with a different, so he could switch between that.
Yeah,
but
you
I don't
could
think
if your AVR Pre-Pro supports it.
Yeah,
in the Dirac implementation, like Storm has, I think I can have up to 8 or maybe more of those different profiles. It actually may be indefinite listing as
and
far
I think
as
the Pioneer that I'm reviewing now, it has 3.
Yeah.
You have
so
3, they call it slots.
I think it's very dependent on the implementation of Dirac into that particular piece of gear. Can you switch Odyssey?
Odyssey just has the offsets that we talked about earlier, where you have like 3 different offset choices you can choose for how aggressive it does the dynamic EQ.
Yeah. And then Jed also makes a point. He says with the newer Denon Marantz, you've got the 2 presets. So you could set certain settings for preset 1 and then quickly change to preset 2 that maybe has that offset or something like that for the different media that you're talking about.
SRW 1000 says 6 for the HTP1.
Nice.
3 for the RCAM. So it's just going to depend.
Sure.
And
like you said, how they implement that.
I would not say that just because other companies do it, though, to think that Massimo or any of those products, Denon and Marantz, are going to be able going to have it. Don't make that assumption. I've been burned too many times by assumptions. Don't do it.
Wait. You're saying that you're not sure they'll have dynamic EQ? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not sure that they're going to have the ability to switch between different presets. Like specific Dirac changes, like Dirac calibrations and move.
I don't get the impression that he's talking necessarily about Denon and Marantz. So like this future Direct Live, I think he's talking about another product that has.
I just went that way because he mentioned Odyssey, so I didn't know if he had a new product and was debating on buying it.
Yeah.
Do we use dynamic EQ? I want to answer that one because I don't. I used to, but I got annoyed with how much it's very volatile.
Yeah.
So if you get it tuned in, like let's say I'm watching a movie at -20 or something, and I get the bass the way I like it. If I turn it up to -10, now the bass is different. If I turn it to -40 because I'm just listening to music in the background, the bass is way too heavy. If I turn it up to 0 for reference, now my bass is no longer hot because dynamic EQ takes away all the boosting as you go to 0 and kicks in a whole lot of boost as you go to low volumes. And it's like it's hitting a moving target all the time. I just got annoyed with that. So I disabled it and I set it to where I don't really listen to huge swings of volume now. I'm usually -40 just for ambient music, and then all the way up to reference 0. And I found that if I just tailor it for say -10 or something, then that bass that just kind of carries forward to me, right? I'm comfortable with it at low volumes and high volumes. It's not squirrely. It's not like, dang, the surrounds are too loud all of a sudden, because it's not just the bass either. It's the surrounds. The surrounds are constantly changing with dynamic EQ. So, hey, if it works for you, great. I just got tired of it.
The more I find you take away the dynamicness of a system and the more consistent you can make it, the better the overall experience is going to be.
I actually like dynamic EQ.
Well, obviously you're wrong.
That's okay. I'm okay with doing that. But yeah, I think the key
is listen to kind of a narrow volume range with it.
Yeah, most of the time I'm say -15, maybe -10.
I think it works pretty good if you can keep it, if you are pretty solidated on your.
But then why not just calibrate your system that way?
To that,
valid point.
Yeah. I've tried it both ways, so I like it. But yeah, I think the key is just figure out what works for you. And if you like it, leave it on. And then if you can use the presets in the Denon and Marantz, you at least have 2. So
here's something, Michael, you may or may not know, and your audience may or not know. As you swing past 0, if you don't limit yourself to reference and you're using dynamic EQ, it will actually remove bass and pull down the surrounds.
Mm.
So you're no longer even balanced at that point. You're going the opposite direction.
Yeah. Got no desire on my part to go above reference. I don't even go to reference hardly ever. Now, Ryan, he's a little weird.
I don't go past reference.
I do it pretty often.
No, you like being at reference. That's loud to me. Yeah. But that works. Chris Contra says, what do you recommend? Onkyo RZ50 with the Emotiva Basics X3 or Marantz SR7015? So I haven't reviewed any of the Onkyos. Receivers.
How much is the Onkyo?
RZ50.
12 or $1,500, right?
How many channels is it?
11, 9 amplified, I think.
Yeah, it's a 9.2 channel amplifier.
And how much is the Basics?
You're talking $1,300, regular $1,600.
So $1,600 total for the Basics.
Well, no, I'm
and the
saying
RZ50?
no. I'm saying $1,600 just for the receiver, but it's marked down like $1,300 is what you can get it right now on Crunchyroll. So $1,300 for the AVR, and then the Basics. Which one was it?
X3.
X3 or A3?
X3.
X3. I'm guessing he means the XPA3? X3. I don't think they have an X on there. A3. So the Basics A3 is $549. It's 3-channel amplifier.
I don't have a strong opinion on that one. Those are both good options. Marantz makes a real solid product. There's a lot of rave reviews on the RZ50. Sheldon's got one. He loves it. He tried out a Denon. He liked the Dirac on the Onkyo better than the Odyssey on the Denon. So, I think you'd be happy either way.
Yeah. I mean, I had the SR8015. That thing was a beast. Really enjoyed it. So I didn't even feel I needed an amplifier, but I had pretty efficient speakers though.
Why the 7015 though? Why not do
$1,800, right?
But why not do something like the 3800 from Denon? 9.2 and then extra 2 channels if you get them amplified.
What would be the cost difference on that?
Retail on it's about the same as what the
$1,700
RZ50 is.
Yeah, so, and then you get 4 subwoofer outs.
Yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Because that's big. I mean, as far as upgradability.
Yeah, and you could use one of those subwoofer outs for tactile.
And then you get the option of doing Odyssey or Dirac. Granted, Dirac isn't an added expense, but it is prolonging the life of a product, I think.
So someone in the chat, Christian's saying that you can get the RZ50 for about $1,000 street price. That's $700 a difference. That's pretty heavy.
Street price.
That street price is probably you got to know someone to.
Yeah, that's an inside job there.
Yeah.
JD go ahead.
If you want to talk about Denon and Marantz, if anybody's interested or anything, and this includes anybody that's come up in the past about any type of gear or equipment, just shoot me a message and we'll see if we can get you taken care of. I promise I don't bite.
He nibbles.
It's all about just getting you taken care of, even if you don't buy something. I'll happily recommend something that I don't carry.
JD the expert, you said you'd love to meet us. We'd love to meet you, man. We're actually putting on an event in Kansas City, July the 14th through the 16th called M-Wave. So we'd love to have you join us or anybody else join in the chat.
You wouldn't like Jonathan, though.
Not that. Let's go. Yeah. And Jonathan's going to be there too, man.
He will. Jonathan is a pillar of the AVS and AV enthusiast, man. He's ruined my life.
And his home theater tours got like over 100,000 people that know him now. That's pretty cool.
They know you.
They know you, dude. People tell me all the time. They're like, who's that dude with the JBLs, man? That was a killer system, dude. So, yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. To bring the family. That'd be awesome, dude. For sure. Said he'd love to bring the family, have your dad come. That'd be awesome.
We'd love we can corrupt all of you in one fell swoop.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. So M-Wave really, I mean, it's a smaller event. Like we were talking about AXPONA earlier. I mean, that's probably thousands of people, hundreds of vendors. This is a totally different kind of vibe. So it's pretty, I don't say intimate, but it's very personal. You're going to get to know some people. You're going to make some new friends. It's not an event where you go and you're just by yourself and you're going to leave by yourself.
All right,
you know,
JD, I have to ask this, and I don't mean this in any negative context, but I have to ask how old you are, because you just said from the late 1900s. And that makes me feel extraordinarily old.
The late 1900s. So that'd be like 1980s, 1990s.
I know, but you would normally say like the 1980s
Right.
or the 1990s,
Right.
not
so by
the
saying
late 1900s. That's like saying when the Model T was made.
All right, JD, let us know how old you are. I'm 47. I think I'm the oldest dude here, right?
Yeah.
I'm definitely the youngest.
Yeah, you're
I'm
like
43.
the baby.
35.
47, 43, 35.
35. Get out of here.
I
know.
know, right?
Still wet behind the ears.
I know.
Dude,
it's
he
the gray
just
that's
reached
misleading.
puberty, man.
Yeah,
Like, golly.
just sprouted out of nowhere.
That beard just,
Hair on top
overnight,
of my
man.
head just immediately
Overnight.
evaporated.
Oh, he said he's 18 years old. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. We'd love to have you.
It's awesome to have fresh blood in the hobby.
I think it's great to see. I mean, look, we got folks that are 50, Derek's 60. And that's one thing that's cool is that we've got people from
we can
all
ruin
walks
them
of
young.
life all over the world that are passionate about this, home theater, music, movies. And now we got young guys like JD the expert. Dude, that's awesome, man.
That is awesome.
Randy's 76, Shampoo Time's 39, Danny's 22. Got some young dudes. Look at all these guys, man. In 2 weeks, gonna be 44. Thomas, super cool. SRW 1000, 58. Nice, man. 17. I love it. Nosrak 22, 17 years old, dude. I remember being 17 years old, barely, but I remember being 17 years old, and I was probably 16 when I really began to visit home theater, like showrooms. We had a place in Tampa called Sound Advice, and I literally would go over there probably every single weekend. I'd drive over there on a Saturday, and I'd get there probably say 10 in the morning, and I wouldn't leave till probably 3 in the afternoon. And I would just listen and long for the day that maybe I could afford some really, really inexpensive speakers. Cause at 16 years old, you're working at Ponta Grossa and you make, gosh, I was making $5.25 an hour, which really is not much. So
was Ponta Grossa a Freudian slip, or was that?
That's what I was a cook there. So it was, we called it Ponta Grossa. It was a buffet kind of place, kind of like a, I don't even know what you guys would have up there. Like a steakhouse.
I've seen those
buffet.
around before.
Yeah. Dude, look at all these 17-year-old boy and a 63-year-old body. I love it, Eric. Look at you guys, man. 73, 50, 50, 52. Love it, man. Brian is 2 years old. Awesome, dude. Appreciate you being in the chat, man.
2? Who said,
he put 2 up there, and he's posted 2 times, and then he retracted both of them. So he doesn't know how old he is. All right, let's get back to some questions. So Joe says, sometimes while watching a movie or playing Xbox or PS5, sound is good, then randomly gets static or staticky. Any idea why? Setup is a 7.4.2 Pioneer LX505, which I actually have in for review. Emotiva Basics front stage issue happens with and without the Emotiva. So that's good that you troubleshooted pulling the Emotiva out of it. And so anytime you're troubleshooting, try to get it down to the lowest common denominator. I would even.
Is that Basics? Where is the static coming from? Everything.
So he's saying he's removed it from the basic, like the basics out of the question. So it's only coming from the Pioneer. But he's getting random static.
I think it's an amp.
Inside the AVR.
Are you losing video when this happens, or is it just the audio that's cutting out? Because it could be an HDMI issue at that point if you're losing video, or even if you're not, potentially, because that's still a different
staticky.
Yeah. I don't know what that would be.
I've gotten it sometimes on my headphones, and I'll restart my power off and power on my amp, and it'll go away.
Heat? Does it
heat.
take a little while to build up heat and then it starts going bad?
So
put your hand over the top of that Pioneer and see if it's getting warm.
He says no, the video stays.
Be interested to know how hot it gets.
Yeah.
Is it in a cabinet?
Is it all channel, all speakers? Okay.
Dome Tweeter said it could be the feed. So his source. Well, he's saying he gets it from the Xbox and the PS5. So.
How old is this Pioneer?
Well, Pioneer just came. Well, that's not an old unit. It's pretty new because I've got it in for review.
When it happens, I cut off the AVR and put it back on, and it's fine. So he just power cycles it.
Okay. I haven't heard any static in the one I'm reviewing.
I would contact Pioneer at this point because that's a little concerning. My first guess with what Jonathan said is heat. Could be the DAC.
If it's in a little tight center, like a cabinet underneath a TV or something, sometimes there's not enough air in there and it could get too warm. Although power cycling it may or may not fix that heat issue. I mean, it might reset the unit and let it warm up again. But try changing out your HDMI cable just for giggles if you got a spare one. And try just feeling the top of the case and see how hot it is. And if it is, put a little fan in there.
Well, think about this. With his HDMI cable, he's got one for the PS5 and he probably has one for the Xbox.
Fair point. I stand corrected.
So it may not be that. I don't know.
Troubleshooting
is not fun.
Try and force it into stereo instead of playing surround. Does it do it then?
Speaker wires by power cable. I don't think that really matters. Yeah. I think you're good there.
Look, JD, the expert, lied to us. He's 17, not 18.
Liar.
Liar. We don't want to meet you anymore.
He's
throwing down the gauntlet. Just
kidding.
Hey, JD, just got to let you know, man, we don't accept like minors at Emily.
That's right. Sorry, man.
18. No, I'm just kidding, man. You're totally welcome. We'd love to have you and your dad. It's awesome. Pedro Ortiz, Klipsch RP M2 or Focal Coras, which is a better speaker, better sound. I don't know what an M2 is. I mean, I guess he's saying the Mark II, so reference Premiere. I've got the whole system. So that's a big, I mean, Coras is a series. So, I mean, you could be comparing the towers in the reference Premiere Mark IIs versus the towers in the Focal Coras. I've always, man, to me, it's so subjective to be able to say, you know, is this speaker better? Focal and Klipsch have completely different sound signatures.
So how much is the Cora?
So let's just say the towers. I'll look up the
Cora is about $1,000 a tower.
RP 8000 F or not FA Mark IIs. See how much they are. RP 8000F. So that's dual 8s. Do they have a dual 8 in the Focals? Something similar, or what size drivers?
I'm bringing up the Cora.
They got multiple different Cora lines.
So the 826 is $900 right now.
Each? Okay, so that's comparable to the Klipsch RP 8000Fs version 2. So those are dual 8-inch drivers, 1-inch tweeter. They're $900 each, so $1,800 a pair.
3 6.5-inch drivers.
Okay, so that'd probably be pretty equivalent in the bass response. 3 6s versus 2 8s. But again, I think you're going to get completely different sound signatures.
Personally, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
No, I'm just going to say, there's a lot of factors. You know, are you trying to power an entire system with, what are the sensitivity on the Coras?
Does it say 91?
Okay, it's not too bad. So these are the RP 8000Fs are 98. So you're going to have to double your power twice to get the same volume. And that's debatable. you know, because some people say that Klipsch kind of embellishes their sensitivity. So even if you have to double it. So part of me says, you know, do you need high efficient speakers? Do you like a very forward sounding? I don't know what the chorus sound like, if they're more of a laid back speaker, to know how they compare. So it's hard for me to say.
When you say forward, do you mean they're pushing high frequencies?
Slightly, but when I think of forward, they're just kind of like in your face. They're not a laid back speaker. They're not a chill speaker. They're not one that has like a veil. Like some speakers I've heard
These
sound
are
like
some
they have
adjectives.
they sound like they have a very thin veil over them. So it's kind of slightly muffled, kind of like this. You know what I'm saying? It's just not as detailed. I like the detail. I don't think they're overly bright.
So couldn't you just say they were muffled?
I don't know if they're muffled. You just don't hear as much detail in them. I mean, muffled is kind of a harsh term to describe a speaker.
So is saying they sound like this. I'm not sure that's any better.
All right, so maybe they're a little muffled.
You just said they sound kind of muffled.
No. I personally, and again, I don't know how the chorus compared to that. My recommendation has always been go listen to them if at all possible.
Yeah,
you'll know immediately whether or not you like that sound signature from that brand, whether it's Klipsch, Martin, Logan, JBL. A horn speaker is going to be completely different. What do they use? A soft dome?
I think it's a metal dome.
Metal dome. Okay, it's going to be different than a titanium compression drive. Well, yeah, I don't know if I don't think they've got a compression driver in these, do they? Titanium tweeter. So, but yeah, it's just going to be a totally different design. So you had a thought there, Ryan. What do you think? Because you're not a big fan of Klipsch.
No.
So what are your thoughts?
I think you said it all.
Go listen to them, man.
Yeah, that's the important thing is go to listen to them.
Yeah.
I don't want to sway anybody either way because I think everybody is perfectly entitled to what they like and nobody is going to be the same.
Yeah.
So I don't like saying, you know, that's not going to be good. You need to get this. If you like Klipsch, there's nothing wrong with that. I just encourage you to make sure
100%.
it is the speaker and the sound that you want.
Correct. And Klipsch, I'll be honest, I've been upfront with everybody about this. Klipsch is probably the most polarizing brand on the planet, not only in looks, but also in their sound. Now, in their recent, like with the RF-73s, the new reference series, they made a lot of changes to that top end because they've caught a lot of flack over the years for being very bright. And you either like that detail, clarity, or it's like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing. But I think they've done a lot better on taming that top end with their new stuff versus some of their older speakers. Like if you get the RF-7s, the originals, there's a good chance they're going to be like stupidly bright. Like they were even bright to me. Very, very in your face. Like they will reach out and grab you and shake you. They're not subdued at all. Not laid back at all. Okay, so Jamaica Social says Focal speakers are very forward as well. So interesting. Yeah. So again, I've never heard them, especially in my own. I mean, I've heard some Focal.
I don't know
what but they were. What? You don't know what he means?
I don't know what forward means.
So to me, a forward sounding speaker is probably going to have an uplifted treble, but to me, it's just like it's in your face, man.
So why don't you say it has an uplifted treble?
Because I don't know if it's necessarily just that. I think part of it is the fact that it's using a horn speaker.
Okay.
Have you ever heard a laid back speaker?
I don't describe speakers that way.
Okay.
But that's just me. I'm just trying to figure out what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with adjectives. I'm just trying to figure out what you mean.
And I don't use very many adjectives. So
just the guy using
that's about all I got, man. Forward and laid back. I don't want a speaker that's real, just kind of chill. No. Jonathan, am I making
you did say veiled previously.
Yes, and I've used that term before. And by veiled means it's not very revealing. So
Okay.
there are details that you're not able to hear. Like prime example, I'll go back to my first system was a Polk Audio. I think it was the RT800. So there were 4 standing speakers, soft dome tweeter. And the very first time I was trying to upgrade my subwoofer. Had a Velodyne subwoofer, had a chance to buy a 15-inch clip speaker subwoofer. No, I'm sorry. It was a 15-inch Velodyne. That's right. So I was going to upgrade my subwoofer. And the plan was the lady had the Velodyne subwoofer and 2 clip speakers. And my desire, they were so cheap. They're like $250 for all 3. I was going to buy all 3 speakers, sell the towers, and then I would end up getting a subwoofer for free, basically, was the plan. Well, I hooked up the clip speakers just to check them out, and they were CF2s. And I was listening to I had like a concert DVD, and I'm listening to it, and there's a part in it where I heard this distortion. I'm like, oh, wow, that's not good. And I backed it up and I played it again. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not distortion. And I did it one more time. It was Jeremy Camp. And I finally realized it was literally his hand moving across the guitar. And it was like, wow. And I went, I've listened to that song hundreds of times. It was a song called I Will Walk by Faith. And I had never, ever, ever, ever heard that in those Polk speakers. And that's what I mean by veiled. They weren't as detailed. They didn't pull out those little subtleties and those nuances. And so that's one thing that I've always enjoyed about clips is that they do bring out those details. If you got a poor recording, honestly, it's just going to sound like trash. They're not going to make it sound better because they're a very revealing speaker. But that's just me. So, all right. So Jay Cameron says ELAC. He says that they're veiled. Andre says, I totally get you, youth man. All right. So these guys are tracking. So Heath, Heath, what's up, buddy? Dude, I haven't seen Heath in a long time. How are you, my friend? So Heath mentions, let me go back to the live comments. Did it pop up? Oh, there it is. He said the Focal Coras are gone. Theva are the replacement.
We heard them at AXPONA.
Did you like the Focals? The Thevas?
They were not in a good room.
Okay.
And it was a big room. The room that they were in did not do any favors. And
yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't a good place to pass judgment.
So JDE says Focals are made to sound flat, 20 to 20 hertz flat curve. Because I'm assuming most speakers are engineered for that, aren't they? JD's having a whole lot of fun. He said, I love this stream. Thank you guys for making my mood so much better. I hate to hear you were in a bad mood, man, but I'm glad we could fix that for you tonight. Awesome.
I'll just continually make fun of the other two, if that helps.
Hey, that's fun. Zendeco says, to get an authentic theater sound for someone with a setup like Michael, what is the recommended amplification ratio between the front LCR and the surrounds and Atmos? I heard the LCR should be 50% more. I've never actually heard that. I know I wouldn't necessarily say that my setup is authentic theater sound. I think it sounds amazing. I love my theater. It's never sounded better. My amplification, I use a Monolith 11X. So I'm pushing 200 watts by 3. And then all of my surrounds are getting 100 watts to side surrounds, rear surrounds, and my 4 Atmos or height channels. So that would be 50% more. But is that 50% more or 100%? That's 100% more, right? Because it's double.
100% is double.
Yeah. So mine's 100% more. So have y'all heard of a percentage?
No.
I wouldn't have a problem sending 200 watts to each speaker if I had an 11 channel amplifier that would do that. I think that'd be awesome. Or 300 watts.
I think you're supposed to level match them. They're all supposed to be the same.
Right. But I think he's just saying, like, how much power do they need?
Depends on the speaker.
Yeah. So.
Depends on its position in the room, EQ.
how far you are from the speakers.
Yeah, there's no, magic number that fits all of this. It's going to come down to what makes the most sense in that particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you just want them all to be level matched, and whatever amount of power it takes to get to that point is what you need.
There's a lot of facets to this question. You can look up compression sweep testing too, Zendeco. Compression sweep testing will get you some information on that, because your amplifier needs to be capable of driving your speaker to the level you want. And I won't go into the topic because it's probably bore people to death, but it's a really good topic if you want to know more. Compression sweep testing.
All right, super cool. I'm gonna throw this up here. Jed Presley says, Jonathan, I watched your projector comparison between the Epson and NZ7. Appreciate the honest feedback, but I bet you catch some heat from JVC folks.
Yeah, I put in there. People get fiercely loyal. They both have their perks. They both have their highlights, and they do different things better than the other.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to showcase. Because to be quite honest, and I've mentioned this before, if you go on AVS forum, they'll say if you can afford it, buy JVC, and if you can't afford it, buy used JVC, and that's like the only road out of town. That's what you hear people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you hear that over and over again in threads, and I don't necessarily. They like I say, they have their strengths. If you want a black star field and that's what you care about most, and you watch a lot of sci-fi, then JVC is probably your answer. Maybe if you watch sports or want to play games, or you like some of the attributes Epson does, then maybe that's your answer. I don't think there's a line of demarcation like you read on an AVS forum, personally speaking. And so that's what I was just trying to showcase in the video, that there are highlights to both, and just have a fair, honest presentation side by side and show where their strengths and weaknesses are. So yeah, thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. And I agree with you. It's almost like tribal lines. People get really, really passionate about what they're using and what they decided to purchase. And that's kind of a shame, but it's like that in a lot of things with, our humanity.
I'm about to drop your channel over here, so you guys go show Jonathan some love. Drop his channel in the chat. Just like that. Appreciate what you do, man. Thomas says, what Blu-ray player do you guys recommend? Panasonic's always been a kind of a go-to for most people. They've got an 820 that's about $500 maybe.
Yeah, that's about right.
If you don't need Dolby Vision, just get the 420.
420, 820.
820 if you need Dolby Vision.
Okay. So 420 is what, about $350?
200 on sale.
200 on sale, 250 usually.
Nice. Okay.
I feel like they're long past due for an update, though.
Yeah.
The web interface on it is just awful at this point. And there is no update. Like, you don't have a choice. It's still the go-to recommendation. It still has the best static HDR tone mapping, but it's feeling a little long in the tooth at this point. So hopefully they'll come out with a new one.
Nice. Thanks, Jay Cameron. Appreciate you, man. Said he's inspired by this channel. It's awesome.
In a good way.
Yeah. And he might be talking about Jonathan's channel too. I'm inspired by Jonathan's channel.
Definitely not me. He's definitely not inspired by me.
Ryan doesn't have a channel. JD the expert, I'd love it. Oh, we already did that one. Eric says, how is your new seating? We kind of mentioned that earlier. Please mention the brand again if possible. Still miss your dog in the background.
It's Manwa, and the dog may not be in the picture very much. She's actually obeying me pretty nice because I told her not to jump on these things. And so far, it's been almost not quite a week, half a week. She hasn't jumped on them yet.
That's awesome.
Well, I'll try to get her in the picture at some point. But
that's funny. Billy says, I'm thinking about the Marantz Cinema 40. I just have to decide if I want to go with a 5.6.1 or stay. I think you got that reverse. So 5.1.6 or stay with the 7.1.6 with his 6700.
So you drop 2 channels?
So he's basically, he's trying to figure out, does he lose the rear surrounds?
Is that a limitation of Cinema 40? I actually don't remember the channel count limitation.
I think it'll handle that.
No, I think it'll handle 13.
Yeah.
11 channels amplified and 2 more unamplified.
It's a 9.2.
Oh, so I'm wrong.
It's going to do 11.
But I wonder if it'll process 11 though. Will it?
Yeah, but you can't do 7.6 with that. That's 13.
That's true. Okay. That makes sense.
No, you probably should.
No, I wouldn't do that.
And Billy, how big is your room?
Wait for the 6800 if you're trying to chase an upgrade. But is there something that your 6700 isn't doing that you feel like you need something else for?
I'm going to give you something personal here. I just went from the 6700 to the Marantz AV10, which is up the ladder from the Marantz 40.
Right.
Good luck hearing the sound difference unless you enable that Marantz DAC. I mean, good luck, seriously. And then when you enable that Marantz DAC, it's like there's a DAC filter 1 and a DAC filter 2 that gives you that signature Marantz sound. It's so dang subtle.
That's small.
I mean, like, yeah, Sheldon and I were going back and forth over and over again.
He says Dirac is why. So, yeah, I get that. But maybe wait for the 6800 to come out instead, so you're not losing anything. And then you just get the big brother, the replacement for the 6700. That should be coming this year, I hope.
You think this year, later on?
I think maybe around the holiday somewhere.
Be nice. Jamaica Social. Hey guys, what normally causes audio sync issues? Is it a handshake problem or just a defective HDMI cable?
HDMI sucks.
It is. It's kind of
it sucks. There are so many things that can cause problems with this. It depends on what's in your signal chain. Like if there is any type of HDMI distribution, switching, balins, like let's say you've got some type of switch, you've got a splitter, or like I said, a balins, almost guaranteed it's one of those that's causing the problem. If you don't, it depends on your gear. There's been some issues with certain types of gear that I've talked about on here not behaving correctly with like NVIDIA GPUs. That's usually the cable. There's been some issues with EDIDs and some other things. Another common one is if you're running both monitor outs on AVRs and they're going to different things and they're used simultaneously and both of those endpoints are on, because the monitor outs a lot of times will share or they're bridged, they can cause EDIDs or EDID issues, and you can get flashing or overall non-negotiations to take place. If you're still having problems, Jamaica, and you're running into something, feel free to reach out to me. We can go through some stuff. I can't guarantee I'll be a help, but also feel free to let us know in chat. And awesome. We can see if we can help you here if we got any more time before we close up. But HDMI, man, as I said at the beginning,
it's a challenge.
It sucks. It's great, but it sucks.
If he's saying audio sync issues, could he be talking about lip sync?
Did he say audio sync?
He did say audio
sync. And I just went through that whole thing on sync issues.
I'm going to let you finish.
Dude, Jesus.
It sounded good.
Audio sync is lip sync.
Some chats.
So there are, okay. So there is something that I think a lot of people miss out, and that's if you're constantly changing modes in your projector or display, there's the potential to have different delays incurred that you may need to compensate or change for, maybe in the AVR. If it's
there's different latencies with some of the different sound codecs.
Correct.
Too.
Yep.
So if you just listen to stereo, it's going to have different latency than if you listen to Dolby Atmos on most receivers.
It's a mesh.
So yeah, it's not necessarily an issue. If you're not losing sync on the video and you're not losing sync on the audio, like it's not dropping out and it's just a lip sync issue, there are adjustments that you can make. Usually there's a lip sync manual adjust that you can try to play with.
There can be an issue with negotiation, though, where sometimes the lock-on will take too long and it'll delay and you'll have off lip sync until you renegotiate and then it'll be on point. That can happen.
Yeah. He might not even be talking about lip sync. I don't know.
Maybe not. I just went on a whole tirade about something that you guys just looked at me like, is he going to finish anytime soon?
Take a breath, man.
Jesus.
It's funny. Oh, what we got here now?
Tapping up some over here. All right. So we got that. ER says, Jonathan, is there a huge difference in HDR performance between your 5040 UV and the LS12000? My 5040 UV looks pretty good when using the Panasonic player, but when watching HDR from another source, it doesn't.
You're right. The 5040 is not. The 5040 UV is excellent in SDR, and it's just not good in HDR, and it never was. There's some different settings you can try on ABS Forum where people have tinkered with things and try to make them. Harper Vision is one of them, for instance. If you type in that as a search term, But really, the 5040 is just not good at HDR. So the Panasonic player, if you're using it right, you would be remapping HDR to SDR, and that's why it looks good, because now your projector's back in SDR. Now, that second part of the question, the LS12000 handles HDR pretty well. Compared to the HDR, compared to 5040, it's a lot better. So yeah, and various sources, not just the Panasonic player, like my Fire Stick or my Apple TV. HDR looks good on the LS12000. It's one of the bigger upgrades on those two projectors.
So here's well, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess in a final way of summing it up, I never found anything that looked better in HDR on the 5040. It always looked better in SDR, every instance of anything I ever saw. And I fairly regularly find things that look better in HDR on the LS12000 than the SDR feed. There are occasions on the LS12000 where it's still, like Disney streaming stuff is sometimes just too dark. And you can change the HDR sliders and so forth, but it's bad source material. So you flip, like, say you flip you're watching one of the 1970s or 1980s Star Wars and they've got it in HDR. It looks better just to switch it to SDR and watch it in SDR.
But I don't think that's bad source material. I think the static tone mapping just can't deal with it.
Yeah, but I've read even in the JVC thread where the guys are like, some on the Disney streaming stuff, they're just like, this is trash. Just watch it in SDR. So I mean, there is just trash HDR. There just is. MadVR might be able to sort it out, but these onboard units, they kind of struggle sometimes. I can give you some specific examples.
Yeah,
Ryan.
I'd like to look at those.
So do you watch much Disney Streaming Plus stuff?
I have it.
We've been going through the Star Wars saga, and there's certain movies. It's not all of them. It's like kind of hit and miss. But like Han Solo is one of them. It's got bad HDR. Some of the early Star Wars, like I think it was either the first one or the second one was terrible, and then the third one was actually pretty good for the first trilogy, where it's just so dark. It's so dark, and you switch it over to SDR, and it just looks real nice and vibrant. And it's like, all I'm doing is changing my source to say only feed it SDR, but it looks way better. And I don't think this is a problem with Epson. This is like, if you just do a search on that movie, like when you find these things, you do a search on a web search on it. There's people with like OLED TVs and QLED TVs and stuff saying this is tragic. This looks horrible. So I think it's just bad HDR.
If you can give me a timestamp, I'd like to look at that.
Watch all of Han Solo.
There's your timestamp.
Just watch the whole movie.
Any of it's all bad.
That's funny. So kind of going back to what we mentioned earlier, Ray Warris says attended AXPONA. Not sure if he talked about it yet, but the Focal home theater room was insane. Couldn't believe the bass coming from those two little subs and the performance of the towers. So again, sometimes, we all have different perspectives on what we like. And did you get a chance to go by the Focal?
Yes.
You said you were in there and you weren't amazingly impressed with them?
Maybe they fixed it.
So see, we all have different views on what we...
I feel like that room wasn't really conducive to what they were trying to do. They had foam ceiling drop down and they were trying to showcase Atmos. And the sound reflection points, I just don't think it was working. I will agree with what he said, that the subs did do a great job of output for how small they were. So I'll echo that. But maybe they fixed it.
Grab a couple more questions here before we wrap up. Ender Robinson says, MadVR NV Pro paired with the LS12000 or just a JVC NZ7? What would you spend your money on?
It's a Pro.
Oh, it's a Pro. It's only
I was looking at the price difference.
Yeah, right.
It's still a significant price difference. I mean, you're looking at $9,500, right? Is that where we're at now? And the LS12000's $5,000, so almost $15,000, and the NZ7's at $11,000. I mean, that's an extra $4,000, and the NZ7 does a decent job. The LS12000 with the Envy, I think, is just going to be
spank it.
The tone mapping is going to be in a different realm. I mean, we saw it at M-Wave. I mean, we threw it up against the NZ8, and it just got demolished by the LS12000 with an Envy. So, how much is that extra money worth it to you? I guess is the question you have to ask yourself. Do you guys have anything to say about that one?
I don't have enough experience with the 7 and in the 12,000 with the EMV?
I would. It goes back to that whole thing we talked about earlier, the different perks. You can make the contrast look subjectively different, but you can't change the contrast on the real low dim stuff with the JVC is going to win there. But as I've been measuring here lately, and actually have posted on my forum on AVS forum thread, the intra-scene contrast, when you have a very bright object on screen and a very dim object on screen at the same time, the Epson actually has better numbers. Like I have a lux meter. We were measuring this when Bob was over at my house in the last couple of weeks. They're both calibrated now. He calibrated both projectors. It's almost twice as good. The Epson is significantly, it looks and measures significantly darker if there's bright and dark. But if it's all dark, or if it's lower APL is what they call it, like where it's dimmer, the JVC just, that's
but would you be able to perceive that necessarily if you couldn't see the black bars?
You can see it. Side by side, you can see it.
I know you can see it, but I'm saying if you didn't have them directly next to each other.
Yes, because when I watched the JVC, in fact, after I bought the Epson and I was going back and forth, I always kind of felt like on bright content, the JVC almost had like a little bit of a haze over it, my NZ7. And I think that haze is what I'm attributing to the fact that the contrast is just better on the intra-scene contrast with high APL stuff on the Epson. So again, depends on the content you want to watch. And I agree with your synopsis that the Mad VR with the LS12000 was like surprisingly good at M-Wave. But if you're still watching a bunch of Star Wars or Star Scene type stuff, like say Amazon Expanse is your favorite show, followed by House of Dragons, followed by The Expanse. Like if that's your content, I still think you're probably going to want a JVC.
For the price, maybe he gets an NZ8 and then he gets the better ANSI contrast and then it stops being an issue.
Yeah, Bob and I want to compare the Epson to his NZ8 and see how much difference there is because
that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Because I think the ANSI contrast in the NZ8 is double what the NZ7 has, if I remember correctly.
How close maybe that's an option.
Bob lives in the same metro, so I think it's 40 minutes away or something.
Nice.
We just haven't made it happen yet.
Sweet. So look for not Ryan, look for Jonathan's channel.
Yeah, we'll probably.
And Ender, if you need any of those things, let me know. I got an NZ7 that needs a home.
Needs a home.
Well, and some. I actually have 2 Epsons that need homes too.
Ryan, I got another one. Back on that previous topic. One statement here: The Mandalorian, that whole series, the first season, bad HDR. Notably bad.
Just
HDR.
Because they're too dark.
Yeah, it's too dark and dim. But if you put it in SDR, it looks great.
Well, is that main? I wonder if that's because the mastering levels are they HDR10, or are they using Dolby Vision?
They would be, for my purposes, they would be HDR or HDR10. I don't remember.
I wonder what the mastering level is for that particular scene or movie, and if it's just screwing up the whole thing.
I mean, if you just do a web search for bad HDR plus Han Solo or bad HDR plus Mandalorian, you just come back screaming with tons of results. So it's a problem with their source.
I'll look at it.
All right, moving on. Sorry.
Okay, last 3 here. Cheesy636 says I have an Anthem Avium 70, has 2 subwoofer hookups. If I want to add 2 more subs, so a total of 4, would Arc Genesis be able to calibrate that? So basically calibrating 4 subs as 2 subs. So you basically have to use a splitter. And so it's going to see them as 2 subwoofers. So I think he's just asking, can it do that? And yeah.
It's going to have trouble. It's going to have trouble with time aligning, though.
It won't be able to do that, but I'm saying it'll pair them. But yeah, I mean, if they're going to be in different locations in your room, then I think it'd be better off using like a mini DSP, right?
Yeah,
because then you could time align each one,
or setting them right by each other.
The problem with running mini DSP though is you're not going to be able to withhold the subs from ARC.
Hold the subs from ARC.
So you'd be double ARC would be doing it, and then you'd be EQing again using mini DSP all off that one sub output.
Well, wouldn't you do all your time alignment first and then run ARC Genesis?
Yes.
You would, but EQ, unless they're co-located.
But it wouldn't. I mean, if you've already done your EQing in mini DSP, then that technically Arc Genesis shouldn't have to EQ very much, right?
Correct.
Or am I understanding that
If you
incorrectly?
present them as one subwoofer, yeah.
You're correct, Michael. The biggest difficulty would just be the time alignment would be unless they're equidistant from the main listening position, which is the way you could circumvent that. You're gonna have some problem with time alignment and phase, and the receiver's gonna choke on that. Like if you had one 2 foot away and one 12 feet away, that receiver's not gonna know what to do with that sound.
No.
So if he just needs more output and he stacks them, then that would solve that, because now those
Correct.
two different ones would
Yes.
be able to be timeline. Okay. So you'd get more output, but you would kind of lose some of the benefit of being able to separate them.
I wish companies would give us the ability to withhold certain channels from room EQ. That would make this a lot simpler.
Yep.
What he could do, put them on zone 2.
Really?
Maybe you can only apply arc to zone 1 and then put them on zone 2 uncalibrated, and then run the mini DSP that way, and then incorporate them in, and then run the same content to both zones.
You're getting over my head.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know
how much experience with Arc.
I don't have much experience.
Well, like on the Storm with Dirac, and I'm pretty sure Arc's the same way. Your zone 2 is going somewhere else. Like I could output to different speakers through HDMI somewhere, or not HDMI, but just somewhere else. So I can apply the room EQ to zone 1. And then I can output or set certain channels to be part of zone 2 and then send them out zone 2, right? So I could have the subwoofers or the extra subs on zone 2, and therefore they wouldn't be part of the room EQ that's going on in zone 1, and you'd be able to get around everything and then bring them and EQ them using the mini DSP.
I think there may be one caveat to that. My understanding, and again, I have very little, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, or even in the chat, but I think if you enable, like if you have zone 1 and 2 and zone 2 enabled, you can't run your full surround. Like it's going, like the amplifier is going to turn off certain channels. I don't know how many that is. If it drops down to stereo or 5.1.
I don't know how Anthem works. I just know that I can do it in the Storm. And that's how I actually do all my tactile.
You should be able to, yeah.
I do all my tactile that way because I don't want tactile to be part of the Dirac calibration or any of that stuff. So they're in a totally different zone, and then that allows me to also bring up and down their volume independently.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure with like Odyssey, like with your Denon Marantz, if you're trying to do zone 2 and zone 1, I think I remember a long time ago when I was looking at it, because I was wanting to run like play
it could be different source.
What's that? Yeah, now pre-outs would be different. Yeah, that would be different. But the zone 2 would be, once you enable that, it's like, look, I can't process all that at once, and you lose a lot of your, surround sound. So that may be a limitation there. So get a Storm. JSI says KEF R7 or Arendal 1723 THX towers for music. Again, man, my recommendation, go listen. And it's hard to do that. I know sometimes you don't have that luxury. I know guys that like KEFs. I've never been a major fan of KEF. I don't know why. Every demo that I've heard, I mean, I like them. They're okay, but I'm not like, whoa, those are amazing. Just not the sound that I'm looking for. But like I said, there are plenty of guys that love KEF, and they'll stand by them all day long. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Got to go hear him.
We looked at the 1723 earlier. I'm looking at the KEF R7. It's 88 dB sensitive, 250 watt amplifier or power output. Maximum output's 111 dB. Frequency response range minus 6 dB is 33 hertz to 50,000 hertz.
So you're just looking at specs.
I'm just looking at specs. I'm with both of you guys. Go listen to them and see which one your ears like.
If you can, that's the best thing. If not, you're kind of taking a gamble. If you just, pick something.
Maybe you like to gamble.
Oh, goodness. All right, last couple thoughts here. Randman, Jonathan, how do you integrate your subs with the AV10? You got 8 of them.
I'm going to do it the same way that I probably did it previously, but I'm going to play a little bit more with the directional bass, and I have played with a little bit. So on my front bank of 5 subs up here, I run on sub bank 1. And my second bank of subs, I used to run off of 3, so that's the 8. This used to run off subwoofer 2. Now I'm going to probably have 5, 3, and 3 is my target. So I've got 4 subwoofer outputs. The 3 banks will be that for bank 1, 2, 3. And then I can play with directional bass on that too. Like I could make the back bank of subs back subwoofers. So they would get redirected bass off the rear surround speakers and the surround speakers. I'll talk about that more in a second here. And then that leaves me 1 channel for tactile reinforcement. So if I decide to do something else like butt kickers or something, which I still got to figure out if I can mount in these chairs, that gives me that last channel for that. But when I wanted to talk about, Sheldon came over that time we were doing some comparisons here recently, and we watched some scenes out of Top Gun Maverick. And we tried the standard sub configuration where all the subwoofer channels get just 1 output and it's shared. And we tried front and rear. And we used the near fields as the rear and the front subs as the front subs. And we played back to back. And unfortunately, I was a little disappointed with the front and rear sub configuration. Didn't do anything wrong, but the rear subs were missing some of the normal LFE that you experienced because they're only getting LFE, or primarily they're getting LFE from the surround channels, like
not from the LFE direct channel.
If it's getting it from the LFE channel, it must either be muted or they're changing something, because when we're watching it with just the standard subwoofer configuration where 1 and 2 bank are getting the same signal, you're getting a lot more tactile feedback from the near field. Like it's as you expect. It's as you've watched it 100 times, you know what you're expecting. You make that near field sub rear subs, you get sound effects. I mean, you get stuff from it. But it's not the same level. It's not the same level. That's not the right thing to say. It's the same feel, but it's not as often. It's not as frequent. So maybe if a jet's flying from the rear to the front, maybe you feel that jet as it kind of comes up, but you don't, if there's just stuff happening on the screen up here on the front sound stage, maybe the subs are just not even doing anything at that point. So for the tactile purposes in my main row, I didn't really appreciate it. I haven't yet experimented with the 4 subs around the room. That's something I'm still going to try too, where you have a front left, front right, rear left, and just see how that works.
Yeah.
But for tactile reinforcement, for near field specifically, I think I'm a fan of just the traditional standard, at least so far. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to play with there. I could spend a whole day even just evaluating the next phase of this, the next try, and I plan to. But it's just tinkering.
So go subscribe. See, I'll throw them plugs in for you, man. You guys need to show Jonathan some love, man. I'm gonna drop it in here once more. That's the Discord. Had it copied in there. Do I still have your channel? No. Anyway, just look up his YouTube channel. Well, we'll wrap it up with this. It's a comment more than a question. JD Expert, man, you've been super, super just encouraging in the chat. My man is 17 years old, almost 18. Kind of lied to us, but we forgive you. We love you. No, I'm just kidding. He says, you guys are amazing. Still in my mind how y'all made my night. Gonna sleep well. So appreciate you, man. We'd love to see you and your family. You talked about possibly bringing your dad out to M-Wave. Definitely would love to have you and meet you in person. Same with everybody else in the chat or those of you watching on the replay. We've got M-Wave coming up. We're super pumped about it. A lot of changes this year. New venue, Kansas City Convention Center. A lot more vendors that are coming. Still a small personal type show. You're going to get a lot of different experiences that you just can't get at another AV event. So we're excited about that. We're going to be doing some comparisons. We've actually got some full-fledged 7.4.6 Dolby Atmos systems that are going to be available for you to demo and just really kind of enjoy that and get that experience from folks like, who else is going to be there? JTR's got a full setup. SVS is bringing a whole setup. Who else has?
Storm, Seymour.
But I'm thinking like full Atmos systems. I don't remember. I think there's Per Listen. That's right. They're
Martin
actually
Logan in the room correction room.
Yeah,
Those are the main full immersive theaters for sure.
Are you gonna fluff Brian's pillows at M-Wave?
If you ask me to.
Dude, he's a VIP platinum, man. I'll fluff his pillows. I don't care, man. Dude, I'm excited to hang out with Brian, man. He's on my I do monthly and sometimes twice a month Zooms with my patrons, and so Brian's just fun to hang out with, man. He's chilling with his pool, enjoying that. He sent me some pictures of that today, and he's got subwoofers he's ordering, man. He's all excited about his theater room, man. So, well, very cool, man. Well, guys, we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. So hopefully we've answered all your questions, or at least most of them. So we do this every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hope to see you back next week, and hope you guys have an awesome week, man. Appreciate you joining us. Jonathan, Ryan, always a pleasure.
Yep. You too. Have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.